Morning, everybody. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This morning, I am going to continue with my double hitter from the Amber King. This is the second one. It's Erebus, the architect of the Horus Heresy, voice acted 40k lore, entire character history made on the Amber King YouTube channel, and it's voice acted by Liam Taylor, just like the previous video that I reacted to in terms of Rubute Gilliman. So yes, it's good to see Liam also in this one. And yes, this is the final double hitter video. If you guys want to check out my previous reaction to other The Amber King's Warhammer 40k content videos, remember the playlist card for the Warhammer 40k content created by YouTubers reaction playlist is going to be at the top right here. Just click on it and you'll be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as the Amber King's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Yes, Erebus, this SOB, the hand of destiny. Yeah, the hand of chaotic destiny, definitely. Yeah, you know, I know of the word bearers, the legion that Erebus comes from. I forgot the number, the legion number of the word bearers. I just forgot about it, but hopefully I'll remember it, or the Amber King is going to state it. But yes, Erebus, Logar's most, I don't know if he was his most trusted friend. I'm not entirely sure about that, but you know, Erebus has been snaking himself or wiggling himself all the way up to the top of the echelons of the word bearers, and he was a close confidant of Logar. Erebus also worked with the War Master, and he also, you know, wormed his way in to the trust of the War Master, Horus Heresy, and you know, he devised plans to make sure that these two very influential, very powerful Primarchs would side with Chaos, and he succeeded. I think he has to be the most successful Chaos agent for the Chaos Gods ever. Okay, wait. Maybe Abaddon the Despoiler probably is also one of the most successful Chaos, servants. But Erebus started it all. You know, he started it all. He is the main architect. He is the one that first designed and prepared and planned out how things are going to turn out for this Horus Heresy. You know, so yeah, Erebus really is one of the most successful agents that Chaos has ever, had in their possession. And yeah, I don't think there's anyone else currently that can replicate his sort of manipulation tactics and conniving and scheming, in the current day Warhammer, in the current day of the 42nd millennium. I don't think there's anyone currently who can do what he can do. So yeah, Erebus he's an SOB, but he is one of the best SOBs in Warhammer 40k, definitely. Okay, let's start with Erebus, the architect of the Horus Heresy, voice acted 40k lore, entire character history on the Amber King YouTube channel. Okay. Oh yes. Before we start, this was a request from Rick R9111. Rick R9111. Thank you again for the request. And yes, let us start. 3, 2, 1, go.
The marks on my flesh, the ones that mark me out as me, were never really mine. I've become like a demon, nurturing a secret moniker that only the Empyrean echoes. They hate me, not because of what I am, but because of what they were. They hate me because they turned, and I did not.
Okay, Erebus.
A man-shaped shadow who bleeds darkness itself. The silhouette of his body is lost to the gloom of his black smoke. He is brother to Gaia, Tartarus and Nyx. He is the chasm and pit that separates the world of the living from the underworld. He is a god, but he has no cult, no following. He is simply there. Great eyes observe the world from all shadows, anywhere the light fails to touch. He is the last-born child of chaos, and his name is Erebus.
Last-born child.
Gods, I hated Colchis. I hated the heat. I hated the dust and the thick sweat of it.
Oh my gosh, Liam Taylor. This is funny. This is really funny. Oh wow, I'm enjoying Erebus. At this very moment, I'm enjoying this. God, I hate Colchis. I hate the heat.
Even before I knew that other worlds existed, I cursed the gods for making my home so unbearable. There's a reason why religions prosper in deserts. There's nothing else to do but ponder the misery.
This reminds me of Dune. I think he has a point here. If you guys have watched the Dune movies or even the ones from way back when, yeah, you realize that what Erebus is saying here is actually correct. You know, because on what is the planet called again? Arrakis, I think. Yeah. You know, the society on Arrakis are extremely religious. It seems like they have nothing to do but just survive. You know, get water, and that's it. Really. And maybe ride some sandworms here and there. But honestly, there's just nothing to do on this desert world of Arrakis. And religion flourishes where people have no purpose. Where people seek some sort of guidance. It flourishes like nothing else. So I think he has a point here.
I used to sit in the shadow of my father's house, squatting as the air shimmered, and I'd wait for scorpions to scuttle out of the glare. I'd catch them in my bare fingers and hold them up, watching them wriggle. I'd pluck their limbs off, one by one. Sometimes I'd get stung. Sometimes I wouldn't. It was a kind of game, though not a very good one. Once, a sting made me feverish for a month, leaving me boiling on my mat inside with visions and shaking.
If only you had died at that moment. How things would have been different if you had died from that scorpion sting. Oh, why didn't you die? If you're so bored with your life on Colchis, if you feel like you have no purpose, you know, you have nothing to you can aspire for nothing, then, you know, just give up then. Give up your soul. Go into the warp and go join the Chaos Gods there. Honestly.
I might have died. I didn't care much either way. Once
the guy doesn't even care. He doesn't even. So why are you still alive? Why were you fighting to stay alive if you don't care? Now.
I'd recovered, I was sitting right back out in the porch, waiting for the next one to scamper into range. Ever since then, I've played the same game. Get close to the danger. See how long you can last before it bites you. It doesn't matter which town that was. I can barely remember it myself. They were all the same. Thick with filth and haze and the stink of perspiration and refuse.
Man, he really does not like his home planet of Colchis. He hates it with a passion.
My parents were exasperated with me. They wanted me to learn a trade, get ahead, find something useful to do.
Exactly. Instead of waiting for scorpions and then pulling them apart, you know, hoping that one of them might sting you. Like, go do something. Go be a carpenter if it's possible, or I don't like herd cattle. Do something. Learn a trade.
I didn't want any of that. I wanted to be rich without trying. I wanted to have slaves and concubines. I wanted to play my scorpion game with people. For a long time, it wasn't clear how I would be able to achieve that, but fate had a way of leading me into opportunity.
Seriously, Erebus has got to be one of the most human of human characters I've ever, come across in Warhammer 40k. Like, his life when he was younger is so... It's not relatable to me, but I've seen people who have gone through the same similar experiences, where they don't want to work hard. They just want things to fall into their lap. They just want to have success in their lap. They don't want to work for it. They just want all of that power or indulgence, or should I say self-indulgence, or that interest in them just to fall onto their lap. They don't want to work for it. And then they hate those who work for it. They become jealous of those who work for it. I don't know if Erebus is going to be jealous of someone. I'm not entirely sure. But, that's the way things go with people like this that don't really want to work. They just want things to fall into their lap. Yeah. He's very human. Very human.
I'd noticed, being an observant sort, that the Covenant had become the kind of organization that I might do well in. 'Tis fashionable now, among those who still pretend to keep records and tell histories, to think of the Covenant as some wellspring of piety, the precursor to the fundamental religion that came later. Perhaps it was, in some places. Maybe in Varidesh they did things properly. Out in the provinces, though, the priests had begun to develop a reputation. They drank. They gambled. They were violent, and they used that violence to gather up riches. Even the devout knew that the tithes they paid didn't all end up embellishing temples. The whole edifice was like a spoiled aquifer, with a cold and oily heart locked away from those searching for the light of the sun.
Okay, let me just write this down here a bit. I was going to say that Colchis is a mirror image of what the Imperium of Man is going to become, later down the line in the far future, well, until to the 42nd millennium, where the religion, the state religion, has been corrupted, or it has been corrupt since day one. And, just like on Colchis, the priests are holding the money, they are living lavish lifestyles, they are, celebrities, just like the ecclesiarchy and the priests that work within the ecclesiarchy. They have gained considerable amount of power and influence and resources under their control, and they live the most lavish lifestyles you could ever imagine. Other human beings across the galaxy cannot even fathom the type of wealth and comfort these types of people have throughout the Imperium of Man. So Colchis really is like the blueprint, or should I say a mirror image of what the Imperium of Man is going to become in the 42nd millennium or 41st millennium. Yeah.
So you can understand the attraction. I could see myself in those robes, with a palace of my own, where a fountain would tinkle in the courtyard and a chamber full of young things would lounge around in silks and count my coins. There was a young man in my settlement, a pious one, who had inked some words of the holy books onto his face and shaven head. Every day, before dawn, he would apply more henna, rewriting the sacred glyphs with only the aid of a polished silver bowl for reflection. For this he was considered something of an inspiration, in our fly-blown township. Even my own mother, fat and lazy slattern if ever there was one, noticed his diligence. "Why can't you be more like him?" she would complain, picking at her fingernails and watching me sitting idly in the porch. "Why can't you be more like Erebus?" Now,
Wait, the priest's name was Erebus? So, what's your name?
you see, thoughts like this have a terrible power. I took her words to heart. I pondered them. And I thought to myself, why can't I be more like Erebus? I was thinking the same thing as I garroted that young man. I might have even said the words out loud as I twisted the string and watched his eyes bulge and pop. It was the first time I killed a living soul. And God, was it sweet. My heart was pumping, my face was glowing. The more his life ebbed away, the more I felt my own burgeoning.
So, you, whoever you are, you killed the priest Erebus and probably took his name. Okay, wow. I can see why the Chaos Gods have an interest in you. You know, not only were you torturing scorpions, now you're enjoying killing someone by strangling them and slowly watching their life just ebb away. Yeah, I'm sure the Chaos Gods were like, yeah, you are something special. We need to take you under our wing. And they will be the ones giving him that purpose in his life. The Chaos Gods. They will be the ones giving him that purpose in his life, that, self-importance in his life, because he's never had it on Colchis. You know, he kept moping and complaining about, oh, my life is boring here, this place is boring, people are sweaty, it smells, there's nothing to do really with my life here. I just want success. I don't care how I get it, but I want it. I don't want to work hard for it. Chaos is listening. Chaos is listening.
By the time I let his body drop into the alleyway, I was positively singing inside. The sensation didn't last long. There was all the tedious business of disposing of the body, and then rooting through his belongings to get what I needed.
Liam Taylor. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I love the voice acting of Erebus here. Oh my gosh. Liam, oh, well done. Well done. Well done. The tedious process of disposing the body. It's good. This really does sound like, how Erebus would sound like. Definitely. Oh, wow.
And turning my back on my birthplace and setting out into the great dust. I couldn't stay in a place where he and I were both known.
Naturally.
I never once regretted it. I walked out under the southern gate, with the stars rising and the heat of the day ebbing, wearing a dead man's robes, and with a dead man's script inked neatly on my own shaven head. There you go. There is the irony. The marks on my flesh, the ones that mark me out as me, were never really mine. I wore them after that to ensure my stolen name and persona were never questioned. In time, I half forgot their origins. I began to care more about what I was writing. By the time I reached for the tattooist's needle, the words had changed, and the act was more than one of disguise. Originally, though, it was all just lies. So what was my original name?
Yes, please tell us.
Just like the name of the place where I was born, that genuinely doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does.
I've become like a demon, nurturing a secret moniker that only the Empyrean echoes. I certainly will not tell you. Some things even the gods don't know. There you go. There is the irony. The marks on my flesh, The ones that mark me out as me were never really mine.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm really gonna like this. And we haven't even started with the video yet. You know, we've only gone through, 8 minutes of it. Oh, this was nice. This was really, really nice. It was like, reading the personal diary of a man who we don't know. We don't know who he is. We don't know who he truly is. He calls himself Erebus, but that's not his name. That's not who he is. We don't know where he comes from. We know the planet, but we don't know the town. We don't know his family. We don't know anything about him, really. What we know about him is that, he killed a man, he tortures scorpions, and he hates his home planet of Colchis. That's it. That's as far as we get. Wow. Okay.
We all have the innocence of the child within, and because of this we fall for the lies we are told, and buy into dysfunctional behaviors and thoughts. Most people do what they do, not because of evil, but because of innocence, the desire to be protected, to be recognized in some way, to believe their truth is truth, a path that can bring forth the horrors of mankind, a path walked by the self-anointed hand of destiny, the first chaplain of the word bearers, the dark apostle, Erebus, an architect for the misery of the Imperium, or simply a tool, one wielded by thirsting gods of the warp, to be discarded when his purpose is served, one hated by even his allies. But a story is only as good as its villain. His story begins in the 30th millennium, Colchis, a thirsting barren waste that burns and freezes with a slow rotation, hateful to any stable life that lives upon it. City-states clung to the few coasts dotted around the enormous planet.
So yeah, Colchis was truly a difficult planet to live on. And like I stated before in terms of Dune and the planet of Arrakis, how it's also extremely difficult and a hostile environment for humans to live on that planet. But it seems like with both of these planets, Colchis and Arrakis, the societies there have developed their religions and their cultures, and that has become the anchor point for them to exist on this planet, on these difficult planets to live on. Their religions give them that power, that ability to, push through life as they live on these types of planets. And yes, also, because they live on planets that have got utterly void of any other form of biosphere, instead of just deserts and ice fields, they really have nothing else to do with their lives. They really don't have anything else to do, just to survive. And, that just breeds and cultivates religious fundamentalism, religious zealotry, and dogma. And, in environments like this, it's suited for it. It survives, it thrives in situations like this. And yeah, Colchis really, it's the perfect example of a society that is trapped, and they find a way to escape it through religion.
But it would be in the outskirts of these great cities that a child would be born. If a life of poverty in a harsh desert wasn't punishment enough, the parents of this child were cursed with an unruly and selfish individual, his distaste of their home. The endless deserts and miserable people often escaped from a mouth locked in a perpetual smug grin. The boy grew, desiring nothing but an easy life handed to him, one of excess and debauchery he knew in his heart was owed to him. They wanted him to be useful, learn a trade even, but he desired to be a priest, just like those of the Covenant. They drank, they gambled, they were violent, and they used that violence to gather up riches. Even the devout knew that the tithes they paid didn't end up all inside the temples. He saw the hate in their eyes, the ecstasy they felt when they were punishing those who had supposedly wronged them. He stole writings and scripture, words he knew he had to memorize in order to placate the foul peasantry that would fall under his purview. Perhaps it was the first time he'd given anything effort. Perhaps it was a redundant task anyway, with all those rumors of a great army sweeping the planet, led by a supposed Golden One.
Logar Alerian.
Guiding his new flock in a faith to supplant the old one. Erebus, the young man's parents, said, "Why can't you be more like Erebus? That devout, perfect boy. Indeed. Why couldn't he be more like Erebus?" The young man approached the devout, marked man and took his first life. It was over rather quickly, though he did enjoy the bloodlust. He stole his clothes, his markings and his name, discarding a name now known only to the gods, and he became Erebus. Leaving behind his desert home, the now Erebus would journey to the Covenant temples, joining the priesthood in the shell of a life he had stolen from another. Manipulation had always come easy to Erebus. It was all meant to be a farce, a cover for his true purpose of a life of depravity. He read the scrolls, spoke the sermons, until the lies became the real thing, the truth. A primordial truth that sprang from the emotions of life itself, an understanding of the tumultuous interweaving fates and random patterns of life, an underlying logic to the illogical, a chaos, if you will, corruption and life, obsession and perfection, deceit and change, rage and honor. Erebus found his interest rapturous, as well as the building sensation of a delight fill him as he thought of how perfect a follower his very being was, like it was made for him, as if it justified every whim and skill he possessed. In fact, in a way he'd always felt their presence over him. He looked into a mirror that cracked into 4 parts, and he felt the truth, as if he was washed and guided by the very gods themselves.
Wow. So you could say that the Chaos Gods really did have, a concerted investment into the life of Erebus since day one. Since day one, they've been watching over him. Directing things to happen the way it has transpired, and then eventually he will realize that, he's being watched by the Chaos Gods. He's being favored by the Chaos Gods for greater purpose. Wow.
In his dreams they came, visions of the future, of a destiny in which he would be the guiding hand for. Finally, those swooping rumors became fact. The new order swept through his town, through a slit of a gate. Through the bustle and cheer of a crowd he saw him, the Golden One.
Logar.
The being whose presence made all weep, the intoxicating majesty, the perfection and hope. Erebus looked upon Logar Aurelian, but felt nothing for this supposed superhuman prophet.
Because the Chaos Gods have already, debriefed him on the current status of his home planet of Colchis and what's going to be happening in the galaxy, and his part, in terms of contributing to their side winning the day. So he's not really going to be awestruck by a Primarch. No, he just sees it as another tool that is going to be flipped from the Emperor to the Chaos Gods. Yeah.
A new age had dawned over Colchis. A society born in the ashes of a great civil war that had cost millions of lives over the great cities. all led by a man who spoke of a golden god coming to Colchis as a guiding hand for humanity's future. But Erebus saw the truth. It was not this Lorgar that was a chosen one. He was the chosen one.
Yep.
Into hiding, those who held the old faith fled, seeking the wisdom of their patrons. Only after a few years emerging out of the shadows to join this Lorgar's order, infiltrating the very group that had supplanted them, one that would be corrupted from within. To Varadesh, Erebus would journey, exuding the charm he had practiced as a priest, to rise within the ranks of this new faith, getting ever closer to Lorgar and his adoptive father, Corpheron. One look into Corpheron's eyes, both mortal men could see the understanding of the primordial truth. Both of them snakes in the shadows. They were good years for Erebus.
So Corpheron was also a chaos agent of some sort? Okay, wow. To be surrounded by chaos agents, clearly Lorgar was going to stand no chance. And this is his adoptive father, Corpheron. That's his adopted father. And now you have Erebus also rising up in the ranks of this new fundamentalist religion that Lorgar is championing on the planet of Colchis. And with these two people, back to back hitting on him mentally, there's no way that Lorgar is going to be able to realize that he's being used, that he's going to be falling into the trappings of chaos. Yeah, wow.
He reveled in the mask he wore in public, the dark pacts and murders that happened in the shadows. He couldn't help but enjoy it. The confusion, the look of panic and betrayal from those whose place he would take. But the day came that Erebus and the world had held bated breath for. The arrival of the prophesized golden god.
The Emperor of Mankind.
Emperor of Mankind. He was hard to look at. A shape that made most weep at the purity and majesty of his being. The anathema the visions from the gods had called him. The enemy to the true beauty and underlying logic that was chaos itself. Erebus smiled a genuine smile, not one of his charming persona. This was the man, the creature that he would bring low. It was his destiny. The Imperium of Mankind had arrived. The cheering crowds led by Lorgar Aurelian bowed in supplication to the master of mankind and pledged their fealty.
You know what is surprising to me is that the Emperor, with all of his might and power and psychic abilities, right, he could not read these humans' minds and realize that, hey, there's someone here that is tainted by chaos. There's someone here, well, two people, two very influential, powerful, tainted beings, live on Colchis. And that is Corpheron as well as Erebus. He could not see them. He could not detect them. Someone who can read minds, like the Emperor. Someone who can, see anyone that is possessed by chaos or that is working in cahoots with chaos. He cannot sense the presence of these two individuals at this very moment. Emperor, your power levels are questionable. People say you're extremely powerful and you're an amazing human being, but nah. nah, I'm sorry. Nope.
Immediately Colchis began to transform. Industry and recruitment into the Emperor's Angels of Death swept over the planet. Erebus and his dark brethren, as well as the millions of fanatical followers of Lorgar, volunteered to become Space Marines. But many were on the older side of acceptability, including Erebus. Some
How old was Erebus?
acolytes died a horrific death, either mutating or succumbing to genetic failure. Many failing to become Astartes, many questioning the protection of their dark patrons. Erebus pushed forward. It hurt like nothing he had felt before or since. Imagine someone plucking your organs out, twisting them inside out, stuffing them back in, filling your veins with acid and cracking your bones. Unfortunately for the galaxy, Erebus barely survived the elevation into Astartes. Strong and powerful beyond a mortal human, part of him relishing the intoxicating strength, and yet equally disgusted by the blasphemous form he now lived. A unification of chaos, and the human form was sacred, not this mass-produced, crude emperor work. The Imperial Heralds, the 17th Legion, one of the most zealous defenders of the Imperial truth throughout the expanding Great Crusade, reunited with a Primarch, Lorgar, the son of the Emperor, would have them reforged. From the people of Colchis, the recruits began to flow in, Erebus himself aiding in the swelling of the Legion's ranks. A child would be held up to his inspection. Argel Tal was his name, one of many Erebus would personally bring into the growing Legion.
I remember Argel Tal. I think he was friends with Khan, if I'm not mistaken. Khan of the World Eaters. And when Argel Tal died, Khan blamed Erebus for his death. Oh, well, Erebus actually did kill him. Yes, he did kill him. Argel Tal turned into some sort of demon, if I'm not mistaken, and Erebus killed him. And Khan found out, or he was told that, Erebus killed him. And yeah, he went into a duel with Erebus, and Erebus stood no chance. He stood no chance against Khan. He almost died right there and there. And the Chaos Gods were not really going to help him. They just watched everything like, yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want.
Now called the Word Bearers, years of grueling training and study forged the Colchisians into fully fledged Astartes, each specializing into the many ranks and roles that suited their skills. And for one so practiced in the oratory, one who had led the sermons, could now lead lectures, Erebus joined the ranks of the chaplains. The Imperial Truth, the guiding document to spread the atheistic enlightenment from terror. There are no gods, no mysticism, only reason and logic. A sentiment that made Erebus almost burst into laughter. How could they be so foolish? But pity the ignorant, for the truth was not ready to leave the shadows. From the sands of Colchis, the 17th Legion would once again launch the stars, fighting Xenos and non-compliant colonies of mankind across the stars. But the progress immediately began to slow. New orders, new doctrines seemed to flow from the very top. Lorgar Aurelian, a seemingly distant figure, now became a man known to Erebus, and he saw his opportunity. Yes, Lorgar, the Emperor is a god, a taboo sentiment now spoken openly by the Primarch and his inner circle.
And so it begins. Erebus has begun, weaving his little net that is slowly going to capture Lorgar Illyrian.
Erebus agreed openly. The Emperor was a god. This undeniable truth should be spread throughout the Legion and the Imperium. Erebus became the most ardent defender of Lorgar's beliefs. How could the Primarch not notice this charming and wise man that simply spoke the truth with reverence? Into the inner circle of the Primarch Erebus climbed, ascending the ranks of the chaplaincy as the years of the Great Crusade progressed. The proximity to Lorgar allowed some benefits. The Book of Lorgar, a script Erebus had tattooed on his own skin to show devotion. The dissemination of the script allowed the opportunity to add to the scripture, perhaps placing some phrasing and ideas that had another source. From a legion that once purged worlds of religious belief, over the years the dissemination of Lorgar's beliefs permeated the ranks through the chaplains. Decades into the Great Crusade, worlds that felt the hammer of the 17th Legion found their conquerors staying behind. Erebus, Lorgar, Corpheron, holding behind on worlds to disseminate the truth, the God Emperor of mankind.
And the Emperor was very clear. Spread the word of the imperial truth. And in the book of, or should I say the context of the imperial truth, it clearly states there are no gods. And now here is Lorgar with Erebus and Corpheron saying the opposite of what the imperial truth is saying. Someone as intelligent as a Primarch, how does he square this circle? How does he square this circle? Where in the imperial truth it says there are no gods, but then here he's saying no, the emperor is a god. How does he square that circle? He has to be insane. He has to be insane, because clearly whatever the emperor has told him has gone through one ear and out the other. The imperial truth scriptures or books or context that have been given to this legion, clearly Lorgar doesn't give a damn about that stuff. He has his own way of doing things. And his own way is to worship the emperor like a god.
The pace of conquest was arctic, as churches and cathedrals were razed on the very grounds that had once felt a bolt of fire and flame. The now High Chaplain Erebus, the charming and wise example to the Astartes even beyond the 17th Legion, though there had been those such as Tal, who had a glimpse of something dark beneath, the mentorship between the two breaking in a violent scuffle, as Erebus had tried to force his pupil into the chaplaincy. Tal had drawn a blade against a fellow Astartes, perhaps for the first time in Imperial history, a usually unforgivable act, but in truth Erebus had affection for the boy, choosing to let him go, despite his betrayal wounding him. It disgusted him in truth, to raise these temples of the anathema, but the gods had begun to show him more, the fates and paths that he had to help guide, and he couldn't help but enjoy seeding some cults of the true faith within the shadow of Lorgar's own. The idea of none suspecting the beloved High Chaplain brought Erebus nothing but pleasure. In truth, he loved and hated his role. He deserved to be recognized for who he was, what he was achieving, but the anticipation of it all crumbling down was almost too great.
But like when he plays with scorpions, he is excited with this notion of, ascending through the word bearers and becoming this very important player within the Legion, and also throughout all the other legions being noticed, as someone who is championing this imperial truth and the Great Crusade, but also at the same time, wondering if one day someone might actually catch him out. It's like he's playing with the scorpion again, pulling off each and every single leg and hoping that the scorpion doesn't sting him in the process. He's enjoying this. As much as he finds this as tedious work and very boring sometimes, but he's enjoying the process. Yeah.
Erebus knew he wasn't the most gifted combatant, not the most talented commander, but with the personal attention and dreams from the gods, he felt unwavering certainty. The future that would come to pass was built up in his mind. He knew what was going to happen, and how it had to be forged. How could one doubt and fear if their future was certain? And finally that moment came. The first in a long line of dominoes that Erebus had waited patiently for over the decades of the Great Crusade. Lorgar and the Wordbearers Legion received a distress call, begging for the Emperor's angels to save the people of Monarchia on the planet of Kur. Into the system Lorgar and the Legion roared, only to find Monarchia, the perfect city forged over 5 decades ago, had been wiped from existence.
Hello there, Primarch Rubute Gilliman. Nice to see you again.
By Gilliman and the Ultramarines. To the surface of the planet Kerr, the entire Legion was ordered to assemble. In the ashes of the city Lorgar had called perfect, the cathedrals, spires and homes now rained down like snow. All ash, stained with the heat and death of an entire culture, falling upon the Word-Bearer's armour. The despise and anathema descended to Kerr. The shock on Lorgar's face was evident, but what was worse for the Primarch was the condemnation that came from the Emperor's lips. You linger on compliant worlds for years after final victory, driving the populace into the worship of false faith, seeding cults of the naive and the deceived, erecting monuments to lies. All you have done in the Great Crusade is for naught, while all others succeed and bring prosperity to the Imperium. You alone have failed me. The Emperor forced Lorgar and his Legion psychically to kneel. If they wanted a god, he would show them one. An all-powerful, unquestioning tyrant. The hearts of an entire Legion, the foundational structure of their being, was crushed in an instant. It was as if the essence of life itself had drained from the Word-Bearers, a deep, shattering hollowness washing over them all, especially from the one who called his god Father. All were heartbroken as their god rejected them, all except Erebus.
He must have been smiling. It's like all according to plan. I like how the Ember King, speaks as the Emperor. Yeah, that had some power and authority behind it right there. I really did like that. You alone failed me. Very good, very good.
Marines such as Argyle Tal rushed forward, picking up the broken thing that was their Primarch.
Hey, he must have been crying. Crying and just looking very broken. Really. Oh.
As the Legion left the world of Kerr in shame, a silence hung over the 17th. Their very own god had rejected them. Lorgar sat in solitary for weeks, barely recognizing the man that stared back from his reflection. He was lost, broken and vulnerable. He needed guidance. He needed to hear words that would steer him onto the right path.
Go get him, Erebus.
Towards truth. He needed the counsel of his trusted advisor and friend. He needed Erebus.
Sire, if I may,
interrupted Erebus. Lorgar granted permission with a tilt of his head. Ever the statesman, Erebus needed no time to compose himself or his answer.
You embody the Emperor's hope. You are his belief in a greater way of life, and his desire to raise humanity, to achieve its greatest potential. You devote yourself to these ends, forever selfless, utterly faithful, striving for the betterment of all.
Poetic, but indulgent, Erebus. What of my failings? History will say that if the 17th Primarch had one weakness, it was his faith in others, his selfless devotion and unbreakable loyalty caused him grief beyond the capacity of a mortal heart to contain. He trusted too easily and too deeply.
Erebus's solemn facade cracked. A moment of doubt flashed across his features, and he glanced to Corferon.
Is that so wrong?
He asked his closest advisors.
So, Corferon is also there. Yeah, they're going to tag team on on Lorgar. Really, they're going to tag team on him right now.
Is it so wrong of me to walk the ways of a visionary, a seeker, rather than a simple soldier? What is it within my father that renders him so thirsty for blood? Why is destruction the answer to every question he is asked?
Corferon clutched Lorgar's shoulder tighter.
That's a good question that you should have asked your father. You should have been asking him, why are we taking this violent route to conquer the galaxy? Why? Why are you doing this? What are you in rush about? Why are you rushing? Ask him those questions. Loga, you should have asked him those questions. But we are here now.
Because, my son, he is gravely flawed. He is an imperfect god.
The Primarch met his foster father's eyes in the chamber's gloom, the glance sharp and cold.
Do not say what you are about to say.
Corferon tried, but the Primarch's glare silenced him. His eyes were sharp with a plea, not with fury.
Do not say it. Do not say. We tore our homeworld apart all those years ago in the name of false worship. I cannot live with that. It is one thing for the Emperor to spit on all we have achieved as a legion. But this is different. Can you piss upon the Covenant and the peaceful Colchis we created after 6 years of civil war? Will you name my father a false god?
Speak the truth,
Erebus cut in.
even if your voice shakes.
Lorgar lowered his ash-streaked face into his filthy hands. In that moment, Erebus and Corferon locked eyes. The latter nodded to the former, and the first captain spoke again.
Tag. Let's work together. Tag.
You know it is true, Lorgar. I would never lie to you. This is something we must all face. We must atone for this sin.
The chaplains stand with you, sire. The heart of every warrior priest in the Legion beats in rhythm with yours. We stand ready to act upon your word.
Erebus added his voice to Corferon's. Lorgar shrugged off their platitudes, as well as his foster father's reassuring hand. The movement split the healing scabs on his shoulder blades, birthing trickle rivers of dark, weeping blood down his golden back.
You are calling my entire life a lie.
I am saying we were wrong, my son. That's all.
Corferon dipped his gnarled hand into the bowl of ash by Lorgar's side. Monarchia's dust spilled through his curled fingers, stinking of charred rock and failure.
We prayed to the wrong god for the right reasons, and Monarchia paid the price for our mistake.
You prayed to the wrong god for the right reasons. Yay.
But it is never too late to atone. We purged our homeworld of the old faith, and now you fear as we all fear. Colchis prospered under the old ways and its legends, until we ravaged it in the name of a lie.
This is heresy.
Lorgar trembled, barely containing his emotion.
It is atonement, my son. We've been wrong for so long. We must purge the root of our errors. The source lies on Colchis.
Enough.
The ash on Lorgar's cheeks was split by trailing tears.
Both of you, leave me.
Erebus rose to obey, but Corferon rested his hand on the Primarch's shoulder once more.
I am disappointed in you, boy. To be so proud that you can't face up to failure and make amends.
Lorgar clenched his perfect teeth, saliva glistening on his lips.
You want to return to Colchis, the cradle of our legion, and apologize for 2 million deaths, 6 years of war, and devoting an entire world to worshipping an unworthy god for almost a century.
Yes, because it is the mark of greatness to deal with one's mistakes. We will reforge Colchis, as well as every world we have conquered since we first left our homeworld to join the Great Crusade.
And every world we take in the future must follow a new faith, rather than worship the Emperor.
There is no new faith! You both preach madness! Do you think my legion kneeling in the dust shames me? That Monarchia was nothing compared to the rape of my own homeworld over a lie?
The truth cares nothing for what we wish, sire. The truth simply is.
Yeah. Man, I'm liking this discussion. The tag team that Erebus and what's his name again, Corferon have on Logar, and Logar is pushing back. He's really pushing back, but these guys, they're so convincing. You know, we made a mistake. We have to go back home. We have to start a whole new religion. You know, we the only way for us to move forward is to forgive our pasts. You know, that type of notion that's coming from Corferon and Erebus. Huh? Wow. And then here Logar is like, no, there is no new religion. There is no new gods we're going to be praying to. But he cannot help himself but to devote his life to something. And that's what Logar's going to do. Now that his father has, chastised him and his legion, he feels heartbroken. He feels like he's being betrayed by his father. And like I said, he can't help himself. He will find someone to fill that void that the Emperor has created in his heart. And Corferon and Erebus, they're just tag teaming, just making sure that Logar is able to be directed to the intended path. Yeah. Well done, you guys. Well done.
Studied the old faith. You believed it yourself as a young seeker before your visions of the Emperor's arrival. You know the way to uncover whether it was a false faith or a pure one.
Logar wiped the drying silver tears from his face.
You want us to chase a myth across the stars?
His eyes flickered between them both, bright and focused.
Let us speak plainly now, more than ever before. You want us to embark upon a fool's odyssey through the galaxy in search of the very gods we've spent decades denying.
Logar laughed, the sound rich with disgust.
I am right, aren't I? You want us to undertake the pilgrimage?
We are nothing without faith, sire.
Corferon pressed his palms together in prayer.
Humanity must have faith. Nothing unites mankind the way religion inspires unity.
Yeah, in the 41st or the 42nd millennium, yeah, definitely nothing unites us more than our fervent, belief and religion in the God Emperor of mankind. Corferon has a point. He has a point. When logic and reason fails, religion grows and becomes stronger, and it is the energy from our faith and our belief that just pushes humanity to points of insanity, things that you would not consider in a logical and a society that's believing in reason. They would not do the things that the faithful will do. So definitely, humans need their faith. And it's going to work. It's going to work in the 41st and 42nd millennium.
No conflict rages as fiercely as a holy war. No warrior kills with the conviction of a crusader. Nothing in life breeds bonds and ambitions greater than the ties and dreams forged by faith.
I mean, the Imperium of Man is clearly the proof of that, especially in the 41st and 42nd millennium. It's proof of that.
Religion brings hope, unification, law, and purpose. The foundations of civilization itself. Faith is nothing less than the pillar of a sentient species, raising it above the beast, the automaton, and the alien.
Erebus drew his gladius in a smooth motion, reversing the grip and offering the sword to Lorgar.
Sire, if you have truly abandoned your beliefs, then take this blade and end my life now. If you believe there is no truth in the old ways, if you believe mankind will prosper without faith, then carve the 2 hearts from my chest. I have no wish to live if every principle guiding our legion lies broken at your feet.
Lorgar took the blade in a trembling hand, turning it this way and that. He stared at his candlelit reflection, a vision of gold in the silver steel.
Erebus, my wisest and noblest son, my faith is wounded, but my beliefs remain. Rise from your knees. All is well.
The chaplain obeyed.
Well done, Erebus. Well done.
Stoic as ever, resuming his position across from Lorgar.
Yeah. This tag team is the tag team of all time. Of all time. This tag team. Oh my gosh. Colferon and Erebus, I know. You do not want to be in the same room with these guys. You just don't. The way they're able just to talk to you and convince you that, you know, what we've been doing is wrong. Let us restart. Let us go back to what we believed before. Maybe that was right, and not believing in this false god or this fake or failed god. Nah, these guys, they're good. They're very, very good. And you know what Colferon said about, you know, humans needing faith and religion? He is not wrong about that. He's not wrong about that. The issue is that we need to find a balance between our beliefs and logic and reason. One cannot, supersede the other. They need to be in balance. Because if we have too much faith, we head down the path of the Imperium of Man of our current day, of the 41st or 42nd millennium. If we have too much logic and reason, we head down the path of the golden age of mankind, or golden age of technology, which then translated into the dark ages of technology. We need to find a balance between the two. One cannot exist without the other in the human soul or human mind. Maybe for other xeno races, it's possible for them just to strictly stay to logic and reason, like the Necrons, or to stay to faith and religion, maybe like the Eldar. But with humans, we need to have that sort of balance. One cannot be above the other. One cannot be destroyed without the other, part. So, Colferon has a point, but it's been corrupted. It's meant to suit his needs and his desires, for his adoptive son to take down a path that he wishes. Yeah. Man, I'm liking this. This is a bit concerning. This is actually a bit concerning. The fact that I'm liking this discussion between these 3 characters. Oh, wow.
Erebus approaches Lorgar in his most vulnerable moment.
Hey, the Amber King.
His Primarch's faith is shattered, and he sees his opportunity to replace it with the truth. Erebus has waited for this moment for so long that it is evident with him and Colferon that they are incredibly nervous. In a way, the whole scheme relies upon this very moment, a chance to bring the first Primarch into the fold and the true faith of chaos. In fact, the way he presents his manipulation speaks to how well he understands Lorgar and people in general. All I ever wanted was the truth. Lorgar's own words that show his vulnerability to what that perception of truth could be. Speak the truth. even if your voice shakes. Words Erebus quotes back to Lorgar as a way to call him out for when he wants to retreat away from exploring a new idea of faith. If you believe mankind will prosper without faith, then carve the two hearts from my chest. I have no wish to live if every principle guiding our legion lies broken at your feet. He threatens Lorgar with the loss of his own life to again put the fear of losing more after he has had so much taken from him after Monarchia. Part of Erebus despises that he has to rely on these Primarchs, but yet he thrives in deceiving Lorgar. He pretends to be his friend and confidant when he is simply a tool, a means to an end, to the destiny of harmony with the Chaos Gods. Erebus feeds Lorgar's ego as well, telling him that he essentially is correct in his behavior. He just needs to find something worthy of his worship. As if to be worshipped by the Lorgar, the Horizon, is a gift in itself. Erebus and Corferon encourage Lorgar to begin this pilgrimage, a path they know has been carefully built for Lorgar and his legion. The hand of destiny has finally guided a son of the Emperor toward the primordial truth. Erebus returns to his Primarch's side. Years have passed since Lorgar, Argyltal and the Serrated Sun chapter have set off to the stars, approaching worlds distant to Terra, and far beyond the current borders of the Imperium. A pilgrimage to a planet near the coined Great Rift, one that would be called Cadia in a future to come. Lorgar and his sons begin to unravel the pieces, even venturing into the warp itself, the primordial truth. On worlds that have no connection to each other, they speak of 4 vital pieces to life, an underlying logic, a truth that cannot be denied.
4 vital pieces to life. Yeah.
Many names his collections of raw sentient power were called: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slanesh. To deny their existence was heresy, and if humanity was to survive, to ascend and become immortal it had to evolve. Xenos, war, disease and time. All these things would destroy humanity in the end. A path to save the species in a blessed union. The difference between gods and demons depends largely upon where one stands at the time. Lorgar had been brought into the fold of the primordial truth. Gone was the grey of old as a crimson sheen now donned the plate of the word bearers. A renewal to the ideals of the imperial truth, and Great Crusade in the Imperium's eyes. A dedication to their new masters and the truth beneath. Erebus and the chaplains began to spread the new faith amongst the ranks in the coming decades. There was some resistance with certain individuals. Erebus enacted a soft purge of those who rejected the Enlightenment.
A soft purge. Oh wow, a soft purge. Oh, yeah. You gotta be politically correct, the Ember King. Huh?
Until finally the Legion was pure and accepted the primordial truth. Even Erebus was surprised at how quickly the Legion took to this new faith. Was there a void since Monarchia? Or was it in their very blood to follow Lorgar so eagerly?
The second one.
But one legion was not enough to bring down the empire of the anathema. Others had to be shown enlightenment, or at least persuaded to rebel against the creature that dared defy the will of the gods.
And thus begins the creation of the warrior lodges. You know, these little groupings of Astartes where rank and authority is no longer important, where Astartes just discuss amongst themselves on the current day's events, or the future of the Imperium of Man. What is their purpose in the future of the Imperium of Man? And these warrior lodges spread throughout all the legions, and it becomes a cancer to the Imperium of Man. It becomes a cancer to the organization of the legions, and as the Horus Heresy begins, that cancer is going to be the one that kills many of these legions. Yeah.
The foundation will be built within the legions, just as it had been within the 17th. Erebus found many allies, such as Typhon of the Death Guard, even Luther of the Dark Angels, the Warrior Lodges, a secret society to allow legionaries to converse without the burden of rank, equals to share in brotherhood, a society to spread ideas and practices that strayed away from the Emperor's vision and orders. Across many legions the respected Erebus would visit, sowing the seeds that would blossom within. Warrior lodges would crop up, most underground, yet some were accepted in the open, such as within the Emperor's children. But there was one target that the gods finally showed Erebus was his fate, the greatest and most beloved of all the Emperor's sons, the champion that would lead the forces of chaos to the very gates of terror, Horus Lupercal. To the world of Davin Erebus ventured. All he could see was a second Colchis, its ochre plains wrapped around a swollen equatorial zone, and squeezing out all other terrain. A world populated by a human population that should have been wiped out due to their mutations in the ideals of the Great Crusade, but that had been allowed to live as a subversion for their task ahead and the true masters they served. To a broken red brick temple, Erebus saw the Davinite priestess Ashub. This was not the one from his dreams, yet, but it would be rebuilt. Here is where the axis of the universe would change. Here is where Horus would fall. In a primitive cave painting, Erebus saw a blade, one unlike anything made by human hands. It was his to find, the disgusting hunched witch Akshub said, if he was worthy. Of course he was, he thought. After all, he was Destiny's hand. Nearly 5 decades since Lorgar's pilgrimage, and the conversion of the Legion had passed. The Imperium had changed with the great triumph at Ulanor. The Emperor had returned to Terra for a secret project, and a War Master had been chosen in his place to lead the Great Crusade.
Was Lorgar at Ulanor? I can't remember if he also attended the celebration and the title or the anointment of Horus Supercow as the War Master. I can't remember if he was there. But yeah.
War Master Horus. In the short time after the ascension of Horus, Erebus would journey to the War Master's expeditionary fleet. Though more statesman than warrior, he had earned the respect of the Lunar Wars. Immediately, Erebus had sensed the stress this new role was burdening Horus with, and had pushed aside his own Legion tasks to simply aid and counsel Horus. A move that brought favour with the Legion. Abaddon, Little Horus, and others embraced their longtime ally, one they had served with many times. He ate and drank with Horus's closest, the Mournival, even going rounds in the practice cages. With Lucius of the Emperor's Children, the first chaplain duelled for 16 minutes straight, the longest duel the others had ever witnessed. Unrelenting attacks against Erebus's impregnable defense, his style slippery and twisting, reflecting of the true heart within. The Interrex, an advanced human civilization, the problem that occupied the War Master's mind. Above the outpost worlds of this great civilization, the War Master pondered, taking the counsel of his Mournival, his brother Sanguinius, and his chosen blood angels, and Erebus.
Of course, Erebus, of course.
They should be considered, Erebus voiced, despite Xenos and their ideal that did not quite meld with Imperial society. Many such as Abaddon voiced the need to destroy them, but Horus was tired of not being more than a conqueror. He needed to show what kind of War Master he would be.
But you see, Horus Supercar and Lorgar had the same thought. You know, why are we always just destroying what cannot be negotiated, what cannot be changed through words or through diplomacy. Both of them are tired. Horus Heresy is tired of being the war master, essentially. Logar was tired, being this conquering individual with his legion and spreading the imperial truth through violent means. They were tired. The thing is that they never questioned the emperor. They never brought their grievances towards the emperor. They kept it within themselves and within their legions. And this is how, characters like Erebus are able to exploit these Primarchs when they're in their most vulnerable points in their lives, when they feel as if they have no one to talk to, especially when it comes to matters of their father. And he takes full advantage of this entire situation. Full advantage. Erebus, you were perfect for this job. Truly, you were perfect for this job.
To the planet Horus, the Mournival, Sanguinius and Erebus journeyed, travelling through the cradle of a society that even now is beyond our understanding. As the negotiations began, the Imperials were shown the wonders of the Interrex, their art, their history and culture, and then he saw it. Just as it had been on the primitive paintings, the blade, the anathema blade. Erebus's heart leapt as he saw confirmation that he was the chosen hand of the gods, the blade that would begin it all. The protection of the guests would end in disaster as Erebus broke into the Interrex Museum, ripping the ancient weapon from its stand. Immediately the Interrex city exploded into violence, as the confused Imperials were attacked by the Interrex, believing them to be servants of this so-called chaos. An enemy that they had been warned would come in the guise of a friend. A darkness gripped Horus in the wake of this failure. The Imperium and Interrex were now in open war, a war this jewel of a civilization would never survive. Davin, a personal request came from the High Chaplain Erebus, that came months after the death of the Interrex. Into the court of the War Master Erebus strode, the thousands of Astartes, remembrances and Imperial army, all dressed in finery and polished plate looking upon the High Chaplain. War Master, spoke Erebus softly, his voice a tone of velvet despite his breach of etiquette. The ever-charming Horus, beloved by all, looked upon the chaplain with a thunderous expression that only a few had the nerve to resist. Davin isn't compliant. Your once trusted comrade and Imperial Governor, Eugen Tember, has betrayed the Imperium and rebelled. The fury and heartbreak on Horus's face was evident. The very failure of Tember reflected upon the one who had placed him there on Davin, Horus. The anger surging through Horus burst as he declared a reckoning that he would personally lead towards the traitor. It was almost too easy, Erebus thought, to rile up the victim for a trap, to tap into that ego Horus hid so well. The forces of Horus and the 16th Legion were preparing when Garviel Loken of the Mournival approached Erebus. Erebus asked him to call him just Erebus. No titles. They were all friends here.
Yeah, we're all friends, we're all brothers.
The questions from Loken started to grate at Erebus. Questions of the warp, of matters esoteric, of things that lurk in its depths, of chaos.
That doesn't exist, Loken. You're worrying about things that don't exist. Don't worry.
Erebus hesitated. Loken spoke the words he had heard from the Interrex before they had turned upon them.
You're going to believe the words of a Xeno over your own brother? No, Loken, don't do that.
Erebus lied to Loken's face. The warp is nothing but twisting energies. The tale of gods were outrageous. The Interrex lied.
Of course they did. Of course they did. There's no such thing as chaos gods and demons and spirits that live in the warp. Spirits. I remember when Loken was also speaking to Horus Heresy about the same situation, and Horus was like, "What spirits? What demons? No. That the warp is just energy. That's all that it is."
Like how they had accused us of being thieves. Loken left, but Erebus was unnerved by the fact that he saw Loken did not quite believe him. He would have to be dealt with.
Yeah, he would have to be carefully purged, like everybody else who are not going to follow with the program. They gotta go. Istefan 3, here we come.
Desolate moors stretched out as far as the eye could see, and amber clung to the ground, obscuring long-range visibility. The Thunderhawks and transports dropped from the expeditionary fleet, as Horus, the 16th and contingents from the 17th made planetfall. Into the swamp-infested mire the Imperial forces made their way, towards the ruins that was once Temba's ship, crashed and half buried in the mud. A foul energy, almost miasmic, evaporated off the rotten ground and rusted structures. Shapes suddenly burst from the marsh grounds, as the reanimated corpses of the once Imperial Planetary Governor forces leapt upon the Astartes. Even Erebus cut down these plagued corpses, hearing the very chant of the planet itself in his ear, exalting Nurgle. By the War Master's side, Erebus clung until their contingent entered the rotting ship. Loken, that thorn in his side, counselled caution, until Erebus again pushed Horus. Temba was inside, his once friend, the one who had betrayed him. The War Master could not be stopped, and marched forward to meet his destiny.
Well done, Erebus, well done.
The Imperial forces held bated breath, until finally Horus emerged from the ruins. Eugen Temba was dead, but on the War Master's arm lay a wound that would not clot, until finally the great Horus Lupercal, beloved by all, collapsed. He had been wounded by a blade that was not human, one embedded with a poison so volatile, it was as if it had been designed to kill specifically Horus on a molecular level. A blade only Erebus knew to be the Anathane blade, one that Erebus personally had given to Temba in the wake of the Interrex War. Erebus couldn't help but relish this moment, but yet feel anxious for all the pieces to fall into place. To the Warrior Lodge, Erebus met with Abaddon, Little Horus, and many other members of the 16th Legion. The expedition held bated breath, as the apothecaries were powerless to heal Horus. The beloved War Master would die here, and they were all desperate as the hours rolled on. The Primarch's condition was getting worse, but there was hope.
Of course there's hope.
On the moon of Davin, Erebus spoke, of the Serpent Lodge Temple, a place of healing by esoteric means, a suggestion that spat in the face of the Imperial truth. But the desperation was too great. Warriors that had fought for centuries, battled upon thousands of worlds and have faced the worst the galaxy had to offer, wept at the thought of a universe without Horus. Flaming braziers and coiled serpent statues lined the entrance. Great monolithic doors carved with the imagery of myth and legend held behind them the wounded body of Horus Lupercal. Erebus had convinced the Warrior Lodge to take Horus in a last desperate attempt at healing the War Master. The air was cold in the inner chamber, Erebus's breath like mist as the War Master's body sat surrounded by the strange Davinite cultists. An 8-pointed star was carved, and sacrificial corpses lay astrewn the chamber. It had all come to this, from the sands of Colchis to this red-bricked temple. A plan centuries in the making, a point from which fate would flux. Akshub, the vile witch, passed Erebus a beating heart, an offering he consumed in reverence to the blessings of the Pantheon. Akshub told Erebus he was ready except for one last thing. He needed to die. The Davinite priestess slashed his throat, his soul roaring out of his body into the warp. Erebus awoke, lying down in a body of water. Hands lifted him up as he reached for his throat. "Hasta Sejanus?" asked Horus Lupercal.
Yeah, it's whoever you think he is. Oh, wow.
A meadow vista around a lake surrounded Erebus. He looked into the water and saw the face of a dead man. Hasta Sejanus, former member of the Lunar Wolves and Mournival, friend of Horus Lupercal. The manipulation began immediately as a pseudo-Sejanus embraced Horus, declaring that it was good to see his friend once more.
Damn, Erebus.
Erebus spoke the words through lips that weren't his own, of how he had died but was thankful for it, for having been exposed to the truth of the universe, that his soul had been cast aloft in the void, but they had sent him back to help him, Horus. The puzzlement on Horus's face was evident. Despite the joy he felt for seeing his favoured son, he hesitated, because of the words spoken by Sejanus. What they were seeing wasn't real, and it didn't have long. Horus was dying. His body was upon Davin's moon, and they had sent Sejanus to save him, the great intelligences of the warp. More words spilled from Sejanus, flattery and pleads for Horus to become a saviour, a plea to save his own life through truth. The great Lupercal was flattered, but still he hesitated. The vista around them began to collapse as Sejanus begged Horus to follow him. Towering genius disdains the beaten path. It seeks region hitherto unexplored. Quoting his own words back to the War Master Horus, they began to move. Horus and Sejanus found themselves upon a marbled plaza, a mass of humanity marching in procession to golden eagles. Vulgar religious devotion, shrines and effigies.
Where's my statue?
Gleaming white marble statues lined a central figure Horus barely recognized. The Emperor? Depiction was so inaccurate it offended Horus. Horus spoke to Sejanus, asking where this was, but it wasn't a matter of where, but when. This was the future. Statues of the Primarchs, Sanguinius, Dawn, Russ, Gilliman, all crafted in caricature of the original, were worshipped by pilgrims. This is the Imperium that will come to pass. The Emperor has the gift of foresight, and has seen this future time. A time where the old faiths have been destroyed, so that his cult could supplant them all. Sejanus told Horus. Horus rejected it. The Emperor was to free humanity from the shackles of religion. "Where am I?" asked Horus.
Yeah, where are you?
"He was nowhere," Sejanus replied. "Lost to history, another tool to be discarded as the Emperor built his ascension to godhood. It was the vanity, the ego, the great Horus Lupercal, chosen of the Emperor who was not lauded, that struck the core. All that blood, all those wars meant nothing, nothing to him, the Emperor. This supposed God Emperor." A grim dark future stared back at Horus, one shown to the first chaplain long ago in the sands of Colchis. Horus wanted to turn away, to run, but he had come this far. He looked upon a reptilian smile upon Sejanus' face, one the other thought hidden as they moved through the next vista. Terror, cylindrical glass tanks and the Emperor's gene vaults. Chthoniya, the homeworld of Horus before the Emperor. Sejanus pounded Horus with unrelenting truths that threatened to crack his heart. The Emperor plans to abandon you. You were created from the Emperor and the Warp. You are both their children, the gods of the Warp, one whose realm is being destroyed by the Emperor. They commanded the secrets of life and death, experience, change, war and decay. The Emperor is weak, but you, Horus, have the strength to use the power of the Warp correctly. You must save humanity from the Emperor.
Yes, Save us. Save us, Horus. Erebus.
Magnus the Red, the Sorcerer King and brother to Horus, apparated in front of them.
It's too late, Magnus. You came too late. Too late.
One who had stalked their journey, casting aside the illusion of Hassus or Janus, revealing the true face beneath. Erebus. Erebus pleaded with the War Master. Yes, he had tricked him, but it was the only way to ease his passage into the truth. Lorgar has already embraced the gods, and his power has grown tenfold, become the new master of mankind. Erebus and Magnus traded barbs, and pleas for Horus to listen until finally the War Master silenced them. I am Horus, and I make my own fate. On Davin, the crowds of thousands that stood in vigil outside the gates of the Serpent Temple had held bated breath, until finally the enormous doors opened. The War Master strode out, alive and in his prime. Lupercal, 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 they cried, all the while Erebus awoke, a serpent's grin dawning across his face.
So he didn't kill the witch that, slit his throat, because that's what he said he was going to do during the Horus Lupercal video that the Amber King made. Erebus did say that I'm going to kill that witch. So I'm wondering, when is he going to kill her exactly?
Then what protects us? Why was I not devoured when you sent me that way before?
You think perhaps your pretty inks, your special words, or do you think yourself favored, hand of destiny?
She turned back to him, almost angry.
No, none of these things, Lord Erebus. Not one will protect you. We are protected because we do the work of the gods and because of our devotion. Our ambition, our will, our determination, these things are pleasing to them.
Yeah, and once they are tired of you, that protection is gone. You're all alone.
That is why you passed freely before.
Will I be able to do so again?
I know what you and the Golden One intend to do. I have foreseen that you will attempt to cool down the ruin storm upon the galaxy and stir the oceans of time into a tempest. This is why you are here. Not only to pass the veil that divides. You will gather your ships about you and sail unhindered whilst others founder. That is what you seek to learn.
She sniffed.
That's what they're going to do during the Horus Heresy. Because, during the Horus Heresy, there were major parts of the galaxy that were cut off due to a warp storm. So, what Erebus is here to learn how to do that, how to safely travel the warp while everybody else, in terms of the loyalist forces, cannot proceed further because of the storms. So he's here to learn how to do that. Okay.
And muttered to herself.
Mighty sorcery indeed. Will I succeed?
Her grass stalk scratched the dust, writing things only she could see.
We shall see. We shall see.
In the ruins of an old temple in the foothills, tended by grim-faced sentinels, Akshab began to teach him the way to open the skin of reality. Erebus's first attempts were clumsy and humiliating. He would pass Akshab's knife through the air as instructed, only rarely causing the tear he required, and then it would be too small or too short-lived.
I think Erebus is like the second person I know who can actually, tear a hole into the warp. Like the Emperor he can also do the same thing, the Emperor. But I've heard of no one else being able to achieve this sort of technique. So I guess Erebus is the second person who achieves this ability. It's quite impressive. Very impressive, in fact. But then, once you tear an opening into the warp, won't the creatures and the entities within the warp attack you? I mean, even if you are an agent of chaos, you are not immune to the threats that lie within the warp, But maybe the Chaos Gods will protect you. Okay.
Many temple slaves were violated and sacrificed before he had mastered even the first part of the ritual.
You must concentrate. Learn. Watch.
She took back her knife. She muttered her words, and slid it along an angle that earthly dimensions could not describe. A crack of light split the air. With a feral smile, Akshub disappeared. Erebus noted again that she needed no sacrifice to open the way, and for a moment his resolve wavered. Patience, he told himself. She returned as she always did, bringing with her yet another entranced victim for Erebus to bleed for the glory of the gods, and then he would try again. At night, Akshub kept him awake, forcing him to meditate to clear his mind and safeguard his soul. She armored his spirit with incantations, but the lack of sleep began to take its toll. The genetic gifts of the Legiones Astartes notwithstanding, the pile of glassy-eyed slave heads that she was making on the far side of the temple, the mark for his re-entry into the material realm, grew steadily. Then, on the 64th day, he succeeded. He made the pass with the knife, weary beyond telling. He was drained by endless repetition of the spell, annoyed to the breaking point by Akshub's insults. He felt dull inside, the words tumbling from his lips without conscious thought.
Yes! Yes! The way! It is open! Now go! Go! Shield your mind! Remember all I have told you!
He lifted his eyes and stepped through without hesitation. What did he feel?
Why is she helping someone that wants to kill her? You know? Because Erebus, like I said before, Erebus did say that he this witch slit his throat and he's going to kill her. And yet, here she is helping him, knowing fully well how he feels about her. Wow. Agents of Chaos are very different. they're very unique type of people, you know?
Tumbling, things plucking at him, great, unwavering power. To see into the warp with one's own mind was one thing, but to be physically in it,
It must be a very surreal experience, you know? Feeling that entire dimension around you. I wonder, like, is it cold? Is it hot? Is it warm? Can you breathe in the warp? Like, how do you feel? Is it weightless?
could never have put it into words. Few could. For to enter that realm was death to any soul, and yet he felt where he should exit with sense that he did not know he possessed. He tumbled to the ground only a couple of meters short from the pile of mouldering heads. Akshub sat down beside him as he lay, heaving. She looked him up and down, then stretched out her hand and closed her eyes. She spoke a spell of divination under her breath. Her mind probed at his, before her inhuman eyes snapped open again.
It is you. Nothing rides your body.
Erebus pulled himself from the floor.
Wait, inhuman eye? Does that mean she has a third eye? Like a navigator?
Exhausted.
Now rest.
Akshub said with the slightest hint of pride in her voice.
Tomorrow you shall do it again.
His trips grew longer. First outside the ruins, then onto the plains, then later into the settlements further away. Erebus stalked the dusty streets by night.
At this point, he won't need a ship. The way he's progressing with this technique, he won't need to travel across the galaxy with a ship. He can just cut open a portal into the warp, enter in the warp, and exit out wherever he wants to be. Whether it's a planet or a station or somewhere, anyway. That's amazing. That's just cool, really.
He was not out of place in the larger settlements, for the word bearers had a presence here. although when he caught sight of his legionary brothers he would duck quickly out of view. He struggled to maintain his composure. Such was his sense of triumph that he would gladly shout it to the heavens. He started to bring his own victims back to the lair.
I mean, if I was Erebus, I would also be celebrating, like, oh man, I've worked so hard. Because he is a person who doesn't work hard, like when he was still young. You know, he didn't really aspire to be working hard to achieve something. He just wanted things to fall into his lap. But here he is, practicing, you know, having a teacher that's always berating him, you know, and finally he's achieved what he's been yearning to achieve for so long. He's able to enter into the warp, exit out of the warp in a different location. I would be celebrating, really.
The place became fetid, buzzing with blowflies and rank with the stench of old blood. For the shorter trips, however, he no longer needed to kill. He plotted longer and longer journeys, at first only in short steps, until he could circle the entire planet in one single night.
Well done, Erebus.
Akshub's short-lived pride in her teaching grew into wariness as his competency increased. She kept her distance and became almost entirely passive. She barely spoke to him.
Why?
Spending long periods seemingly in a trance, but did nothing to disrupt his learning. Then he dared the moon. He stood in his daylight swamps, gazing up in amazement at Davin's night side where he had once been only seconds before. No matter how far he went, the time he felt within the warp varied little. The same sensations of power and fear, the struggle to keep his mind blank of all but his destination, the tumble from one realm to another. He lacked Akshub's elegance, but he knew he could go farther than she. He had grown more powerful than her, and they both knew it. She ceased to guide him at all. She stopped eating. Erebus guessed that she was preparing herself for the end. He was angered by that, but still she did not leave the temple. He set himself one final test. He emerged into his quarters above the Destiny's Hand with a clatter, spat from the warp with force. He slammed into his iron lectern, scattering books, manuscripts and data slates onto the floor. Laughing, he fell back into them, surrounded by a jumble of arcane knowledge. He laughed long and loud. He had pinpointed a ship, moving through the warp at speed, without any beacon or homing signal. He had arrived within his locked and barred sanctum, and no one had detected him in any way.
Wow. Wow.
I truly am the hand of destiny,
he murmured to himself. He left again before he was discovered, back to the ruined temple on the other side of the Ultima Segmentum. Now was time for that old witch to die. Akshub was waiting for him when he arrived.
Oh, so this whole time she was just preparing herself to die at the hands of Erebus. Probably the Chaos Gods gave her that future, you know, that your death will be at the hands of Erebus. But before you die, you must teach him how to use this warp teleportation technique. Yeah, okay.
She watched him as he approached.
I have learned all I can from you, priestess,
Erebus said, casting off his rough robe.
That is so.
Only one more task remains to me here.
I have foreseen it.
She agreed. She did not resist as he knelt and pinned her to the floor in the center of the temple, with the 7 of the Anathames, their unnatural blades sinking into the stone as hot knives might sink into ice. She cried out as he repeated the ritual that he had seen her perform upon the Davenite priest the day she had sent Erebus to meet the War Master. She did not plead with him, not even as he peeled back her withered skin.
Oh my gosh, really? Do you have to do that? I mean, can't you just slit her throat and be done with it like that? Why must you go through this entire laborious process of skinning her alive? I mean, why? The obsession with skinning people alive in this universe is just... it's weird. It's weird.
Though she gasped as he sank the last of the blades into the exposed muscle of her chest, she was still conscious as he cut out her heart and bit into it. Her eyes fluttered as her blood ran down his chin.
It is the will of the gods.
Curiously, she died with a smile on her face.
I wonder which god is going to take her in. Is it going to be Slanesh? Is it going to be Korn? Or Nurgle? Or Zinj? Like those who follow the Chaos Gods undivided. You know, once they die, where do they go? Where do their souls go? I'm wondering about that. Or maybe they can hover in whichever dimension the Chaos Gods are in control of. Yeah, maybe they can just hop from whichever dimension that they choose. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Part 3, the Horus Heresy. Yeah, it's time for the Istvan 3, Istvan 5, Dropside Massacre. It's time for Horus Lupercal to declare that he will be the savior of humanity. And if he cannot save us, let the galaxy burn.
Erebus has corrupted the War Master Horus by showing him the grim dark future that is destined to come. Yet the information that this future forged by Horus's own betrayal is suspiciously kept out of the equation. It leads to questions, such as if Erebus himself knows that this future is contingent on Horus's betrayal, rather than a direct consequence of the supposed ego-driven ascension of the Master of Mankind. Does Erebus know that these are the lies of the very gods that he serves, or is he a willing servant of them anyway? His unique strength is his unwavering certainty, knowing how events will play out. Though many fates take great effort to forge, are they a guarantee in his mind? With the War Master brought into the fold, 2 legions now serve the Chaos Gods, though one follows the true faith, and the other sees it as a tool to dethrone the Emperor. It is before this grand betrayal is open that Erebus journeys back to the temple on Davin's moon. It has only been a few short years, where in secret Horus is gathering allies and setting plans from the shadows, shattering the anathema into several dagger pieces. Erebus has come back to expand his powers. He has acted as a grand manipulator, assessing people and finding the right words to pervert them to the right path. But in the war that is coming, he needs to be in many theaters at once.
So, you gotta learn how to teleport.
He needs to travel across the galaxy. He needs to be there in person to make sure events play out as they should do. Through the Davinite priestess he despised, he harnesses the power to traverse the warp by tearing a path with the anathema dagger. It is no boon, but a skill he trains relentlessly, and in his success it validates his monstrous ego, that he truly is the chosen one, the hand of destiny. He unbelievably thinks that this entire war has come to be about him. What may have been genuine faith is turning into narcissistic delusion.
And this is where the Chaos Gods are gonna start losing interest in you, Erebus. Because, yeah, you know, the Chaos Gods are having fun with you. You know, you are entertaining. you are proving to be a very loyal and obedient little thing that they use for their own ends. But I think they're now going to start getting tired of you and start looking to other people. And mainly that's going to be Horus Lupercal.
Erebus leaves more powerful than ever, ready to enact the greatest war humanity will ever witness. Erebus sat at a gathering of leadership of the Word-Bearers Legion. Though bonded by the Brotherhood of War, the innate competition for the favour of the gods had created rivalries. daggers like shards were handed out to the council, a gift for the war to come. Lorgar had instructed them to plan something special for the ones the Primarch despised so much since Monarchia, the Ultramarines. A reckoning would come upon the world of Calth, but quickly Erebus left. He had been summoned to the War Master's side. Erebus stepped past the War Master and directed his gaze towards Ing Mei Sing. Though the Astropath was blind, she recoiled as she felt his eyes roaming across her flesh. She backed against one wall, trying to shrink away from him, but he grasped her arm in a crushing grip and dragged her towards the fire. Horus drew back his arm. He rammed his clawed gauntlet through her chest, the blaze tearing through her heart and lungs and ripping from her back in a spray of red. Erebus nodded towards the fire and the War Master held the corpse above the pit, letting Ing Mei Sing's blood drizzle into the flames. The emotions of her death flooded the lodge as the blood hissed in the fire, hot, raw and powerful.
So she was a sacrifice. Oh, wow. Here you are, you're being loyal to your Primarch. Your Primarch invites you to his office. You see a fire there, you're like, oh, okay, we're going to have a nice little talk. Then he kills you. He kills you and he uses your blood for sacrifice and, for him to gain power or information or something. Oy.
Fear, pain, and the horror of betrayal. Erebus knelt and scratched designs onto the floor, copying them exactly from the diagrams in the book. A star with 8 points that was orbited by 3 circles, a stylized skull, and the runes of Colchis. Horus spoke to the demon that appeared. I am Sarkal, Lord of Shadows, Demon of Chaos. He had come for the power that was promised, the one Horus craved. Horus told the creature he would take what was owed, but first his legion would be cleansed. Istvan III, a world in rebellion to the Imperium. The combined forces of the sons of Horus, Emperor's children, World Eaters and Death Guard fell from orbit to begin their assault. The composition of the squads and chapters was unusual. Most of those who fought upon the surface were the Terran elements of the Legion, those that had been there since the early days of the Unification Wars. It would be from the skies that the truth was revealed. Virus bombs rocketed towards the Astartes ground forces, their origin that of their own Legion ships.
The traitors. The traitors!
It had been quite the effort for Erebus, but the satisfaction was immense as he saw the Istvan III massacre finally come to fruition. Finally the War Master spoke his true thoughts into the open, as the civilians and remembrancers cried. He declared a reckoning, that he would throw off the yoke of the tyrant Emperor, and the galaxy would burn. Those that would not stand beside the War Master would die. The loyalist elements that had managed to survive the initial bombs, due to the early warning of the 3rd Legionary Saul Tarvitz, put up a desperate struggle, but eventually they would fall. Men who had fought side by side with each other for centuries, cut each other down in a brutal conflict. A betrayal unlike anything the Imperium had ever seen. The beginning of large-scale Astartes versus Astartes. The Grey Crusade had ended with a declaration of betrayal by the Emperor's most beloved son, Horus Lupercal. 4 legions, the sons of Horus, World Eaters, Death Guard and Emperor's children had seceded from the Imperium and were in open revolt. Erebus's delight grew as the warp across the galaxy began to stir in turmoil. Communication and travel for the Loyalists became extremely difficult, but news reached Terra, and across the Imperium, sides were being drawn up. Many worlds only knowing the charismatic Lupercal, not the distant Emperor who ruled from Terra. 7 legions were dispatched to bring these traitors to heel. A forward contingent of Iron Hands, Raven Guard and Salamanders, only to be reinforced by the Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion, Night Lords and Word Bearers. To the world of Istvan V the fleets of the Imperium sailed. In a secret conclave, the leadership of the Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion, Night Lords and Word-Bearers met. The former legions brought into the fold by the War Master. Leading up to the dawn of the Horus Heresy, Erebus stood side by side with Lorgar as they declared death to the false Emperor. Upon the killing fields of Isfahan V, Erebus and the Word-Bearers assembled behind the Raven Guard, the Primarch Lorgar, Corferon, and the leader of the Galvor Back, Erebus's former pupil Argel Tal, stood. The first wave had retreated, from reaping a bloody toll on the forces of Horus. They hailed their allies with welcome cheers, only for the rocks to remain still. An unnerving silence grew between the two forces, a precipice from which there was no return. The 17th Legion raised their guns and fired, surrounding the loyalists on all sides. A second betrayer was revealed as the Raven Guard. Iron Hands and Salamanders were annihilated. Erebus cut down with glee the forces of the Anathema, bellowing chants from the new Book of Lorgar he and Corferon had altered in their wisdom.
These traitors, how dare they? Well done, Erebus, but you traitor.
Foul exhortations to the dark gods as they offered the blood of those they had once called brothers. Erebus strode through the piles of dead, hundreds of thousands, that had been annihilated in a battle so bloody and brutal it melted the mortal mind. He stood side by side with the man who had once been his favoured pupil.
Mr. Tal. Angel Tal, right? Yes.
Their bond broken long ago. Argel Tal.
Oh, Argel Tal. Sorry, not Angle. Argel Tal. Yes.
The captain of the Galvorback's armour was cracking back into place, reforming to a mortal shape from the demonic hybrid he had become in battle. A gift from Argel Tal's own pilgrimage long ago. Erebus felt proud in his own way to see what Argel Tal had become, how he represented the blessed union of humanity and the gods, with a demon Raum inside him. The two looked over the horrific field of death, the ground stinking of smoke, chemicals and blood. The two walked as they slit the throats of the wounded. Argel Tal told Erebus he didn't regret rejecting him and the path of the chaplaincy long ago, but asked for his forgiveness of how it ended. Erebus had forgiven him long ago. Argel Tal asked Erebus if the 17th was unique, if the zealous loyalty they had to Lorgar, even to the zealotry that in all things was within their blood. A hint of suspicion spilled from Argel Tal. It was all choice assured Erebus, because it was the right path, the truth.
Yeah, the truth.
But he admitted there were times when the Primarch had to be guided. Almost like a confessional, Erebus continued to speak.
Nah, keep it up, Erebus, tell him everything.
When the Primarch returned from the Great Eye, he was distraught. He wasn't ready to deal with the reality, the truth, the primordial truth, and its ramifications. But it was a truth none could ignore. Even the Legion could see the primordial truth was seeded into very human myth, though some did resist and had to be purged. All came to the wisdom of it in the end. Erebus enjoyed this confessional, knowing that the point of no return had come and gone. It felt good for someone else to see more of the greater picture. In a way, Erebus was disgusted by Lorgar, because even now a part of the Primarch hesitated, and he saw that too in Argel Tal. He hated how he still had to guide ones who still had doubts. From the killing fields of Isfahan V, Erebus, Corferon and a contingent of word-bearers left to rendezvous with the Ultramarines and Guilliman. With the warp storms raging across the galaxy, news of the betrayal had yet to reach the 13th Legion's ears.
It's time to exact the revenge on the 13th Legion.
A flaw the 17th would exploit. The 13th Legion sat in station, on the ground and in orbit above Calth, a jewel within the realm of Ultramar, as they awaited unification with the Word Bearers, ones they believed to be allies. In the docks of Calth, an ultramarine vessel made no attempts to slow down. Klaxons and vox signals fell on deaf ears as the vessel curried into the heart of the Ultramarines' fleet. The guns and drop pods of the 17th flared as the 13th took the devastation in shock.
Death to the false emperor!
Thousands died in the opening minutes of the Battle of Calth. The 13th Legion and Guilliman were horrified to see up close the transformation of their once allies, the possessed Galvor back, a haunting contradiction of the Imperial truth. Erebus looked on as the 13th Legion and the citizens of Calth burned. The screams of pain and emotions of betrayal a strong ingredient for the next step, gathering together ingredients such as gene seed of those that had died at Isfahan, live sacrifices in the psychic wound of Calth's destruction. Erebus enacted a ritual to the dark gods. Psychic power roared through the material universe in an abhorrent scream. A kaleidoscopic scar ripped the galaxy in half as Erebus gave birth to the ruined storm, cutting the Imperium in two. The light of the Astronomicon of Terror was swallowed by hell itself. The throne world was isolated, and the Imperium was left in darkness. Though the betrayal had caught the 13th and Guilliman by surprise, the 13th slowly rallied, pushing back in the brutal conflict until the forces of Corferon were forced to retreat, though in spite Erebus had poisoned the son of Calth. The first chaplain left the field of battle before his brothers. The losses for the 17th were heavy, but for the 13th it was catastrophic. Erebus returned to the bulk of the Word-Bearer forces, now working in unison with the World Eaters in the dubbed Shadow Crusade, a genocide of the realm of Ultramar.
Shadow Crusade. Wow.
Erebus entered the chambers of his Primarch Lorgar, and stood before Argyltal, Khan, and the Primarch Angron. Erebus spoke with his usual charm, telling Lorgar that they had much to discuss in private. But Lorgar began to mock Erebus, asking why does the Immaterium not sing of a great success at the Battle of Calth? Surely he has succeeded in destroying the Ultramarines, and has killed Rabute Guilliman. In fact, where is his ship, and the forces he had put under his command? Low chuckles spilled from the others in the room as Erebus began to look nervous.
Wow. Lorgar, when did you turn 360 on your best friend Erebus? When did that happen? I missed something there. I missed that point there where you just decided to change on Erebus. Wow, okay.
He had once been his closest advisor.
Exactly.
A friend in Lorgar's eyes.
Exactly.
But with Lorgar's enlightenment to chaos, and the now seeming full acceptance of the gods, he had changed. Lorgar's love of Erebus had died.
This tends to happen to all of these chaos loyalists forces, once they finally give themselves over to chaos, they are no longer having this form of unity or brotherhood, or respect for one another. Now they're all competing with one another for the graces of, or should I say, the support from the chaos gods. And everyone now is a potential threat, a potential enemy, and you have to bring them down as soon as possible. So I guess Lorgar is also part of this program now, where he sees Erebus as competition for the favor of the Chaos Gods. Maybe. Yeah.
Things that once whispered exclusively into Erebus's ear were now heard by Lorgar. The desire to drop the facade and scream at the Primarch that he should know his place was overwhelming.
Just do it. Just do it. And if he tries to attack you, you teleport away.
Did the Urizen actually believe he was the chosen of the gods? That he was the hand of destiny?
you will realize that none of you guys are the chosen ones or the favored of the Chaos Gods. You're just tools. You're all just simple tools that they're using to further their ends. No one is really favored. I think the only one that was actually really favored was Horus Heresy, because of his potential, because of his capability of actually taking down the Emperor. So yeah, he was really favored. All of you guys are just pawns. Even the Primarchs that have been turned to chaos, they're just pawns in this grand scheme, in this grand game that the Chaos Gods are playing with the Emperor. But of course, you guys are so thick-headed, so egotistical, so prideful that you just don't see that. You don't realize that.
From barely disguised chuckles, Erebus could see that this was a farce, and that Lorgar was enjoying making fun of him. It became clear now that Lorgar saw the true Erebus. It was no longer the naive Primarch that could be manipulated.
He's still being manipulated right now by the Chaos Gods. But yeah, okay, by Erebus he can't be manipulated by him anymore. True.
The boy from Colchis had once again pinched off too many tails from the scorpion, and now he had been stung. Lorgar left a warning to Erebus that he knew his next plot of the trap he had laid at Cygnus Prime for Sanguinius, it would fail. Did Lorgar forget that Erebus read the fates too? Long before the Primarch ever did, he was sure he would succeed. Erebus left with a smile on his face, but his heart's beating with hate and fury. At the tomb of the Blessed Lady Cyrene, the dead confessor of the Word-Bearers, stood Argol Tal.
Blessed Lady Cyrene? Who's that? Was she like a saint? Oh, okay.
Erebus approached. The Primarch had discarded him. He had come to hang on to the sliver of a bond that was left between him and Argol Tal, and to make sure of something. Argol Tal presented Erebus with the true book of Lorgar, not one he and Corferon had altered and spread to the Legion. The frustration growing as Erebus felt Argol Tal slip away as Lorgar had. Erebus tried again to enlighten Argol Tal. Help me bring Lorgar back onto the guided path, only for his former pupil's eyes to glow molten silver as the demon within raged at him. Argol Tal, Rome, whatever he had been, it was never a lonely schemer like Erebus. The master of the Galvor back lashed out as Erebus desperately parried the blow. The shock to his soul was a greater blow than the physical one, as Erebus realized he had truly lost Argol Tal.
I mean, yeah, you lost him the moment you realized there was a demon inside of him. Argol Tal is no longer there. Now he's just a puppet being used by this demon. He died a long time ago, I think.
With that access to Lorgar, in the many fates the gods had whispered into his chosen mind, he knew what Argol Tal's rejection of him meant. To die at the hands of Sanguinius, in the shadow of great wings, was one of his pupil's fates, a death the latter had accepted. But this disobedience, Lorgar loyalist Argol Tal, had further-reaching consequences. Khan, captain of the World Eaters, had caught the eye of Khorne. If he was to meet his destiny as the champion of the Blood God, he could not maintain his bond with Argol Tal, his only friend, something Erebus could no longer stop. It was then that Argol Tal asked the very thing that doomed him. He asked if he could resurrect the Lady Cyrene. On the face that hid emotion so well, the soul beneath twitched. The thread that brought back the Blessed Lady led Argol Tal to save Khan.
Who is this Blessed Lady, and why is Argol Tal so connected or devoted to this Blessed Lady?
Erebus looked upon his once greatest pupil and saw that he was walking dead. Argol Tal had to die. In a strange way, Erebus was disappointed, but yet he also knew that he would always take pleasure in enacting a betrayal. and the service to the gods. He lied to Argyltal, as easy as breathing, warning him to guard Khan in the coming battles, and began the resurrection ritual. Colchisian runes were etched into the floor. The sacrifices were brought forth. Foul names of the denizens of the warp were chanted as he located the soul of Cyrene. With one dark and foul syllable, the bones of the dead Blessed Lady began to shake and then grow. Flesh and blood exploded and shaped around them as Cyrene was brought back into the realm of the living with a scream. Argyltal rushed forward and embraced his friend, his confessor. Erebus looked upon this sight, feeling one last fleeting indulgence as he planned the path that had to come next. To the world of Nuceria, previous home of Angron, the Word Bearers and World Eaters continued their shadow crusade. The world burned. Slaughter and blood reigned until a surprise ragtag of Ultramarines, led by Gilliman, ambushed them. The renewed battle between the legions was brutal. The madness and vile slaughterous intent of the traitors, matched by the resolute rage of the Ultramarines. Above the ruins of a fallen vessel, Erebus approached Argyltal. The Crimson Lord, the captain of the Vakra Jarl, stood wounded, having gone far beyond the point of exhaustion during the conflict, watching over and defending Khan. Deathly afraid of Erebus's prophecy, the two stood side by side as they watched over the smoking ruins of Nuceria, the corpses of civilians and Astartes strewn for miles. The sun was dawning as the two looked over the red skies. Erebus slid the anathema dagger into Argyltal's back. If only his pupil had chosen another fate. If only he had given up Khan and Cyrene, he could have died a glorious death on Terra.
So what happened to Cyrene then? I mean, yes, she's been resurrected, and she was together with Argyltal. But now, what happens to her since Argyltal is dead? And the fact that he has the power of resurrecting people from the dead like that's some powerful warp sorcery right there. Really, that's some very powerful warp sorcery. If only you could use that to resurrect the Emperor in the 42nd millennium, or if someone could learn that. But I suspect that if anyone should learn how to do something like that, they would be closer to chaos than to be someone who's able to control their own lives and do, this very important act to resurrect the Emperor. Yeah, I think they would be far closer to chaos.
He couldn't be trusted. He couldn't be controlled. Oh, how Erebus despised particularly those who couldn't control. Erebus blamed him for forcing him to do this. He was Destiny's hand. How could Argyltal even fathom the responsibility laid at his feet? Erebus walked away, the life drained from the boy he had seen born on Colchis. A life he had now seen end. To the fighting pits of the World Eater's ships, Erebus stood bloodied but victorious, the Crozius at his side as the chants of the two legions cheered. This was what he was meant to feel. The admiration, to be admired and in part feared. His good
Khan, come in here. Khan, come in here. Do what you want to do to Erebus. Come.
good name had been lessened since the start of the heresy. Now the respect he deserved would be restored, until he turned to see Captain Khan enter the pit.
There you are.
To first blood, Erebus smiled at Khan. Sanguius extremis. To the death, Khan growled back, revving the chain blade of the reforged, enormous Gorechild axe. Something was wrong. Erebus kept his composure and raised his Crozius. 3 blows, faster than any Erebus could even register. Another 3 blows gored and sliced Erebus, smashing him to the ground. Erebus looked up to Khan and saw his death.
Get up.
He knew Khan knew he had killed Argel Tal. "Get up," Khan said, almost bawled. Erebus felt his nerve weaken. Of all the fates he had seen, this was not amongst them.
Yeah, because the Chaos Gods are done with you. They're like, I know, man, you've had your run. Thank you. Bye-bye.
His strength came from unwavering certainty born from his knowledge of the future. What was happening? Erebus rose up. He was not weak. He lashed out in fury against Khan, only for 3 more blows to strike. The crowd hushed. They had never seen a Khan like this before. Again, Erebus smashed into the dust. He looked to the stump that ended at his arm. It seems destiny had lost his hand. Just as the threads he plucked from the shadows, they were cut. Get up. Again, that bored, uncaring voice spoke above him. Erebus began to panic. This was not fated. He would not die here. He had so much more to achieve. Erebus froze as he felt the teeth of Gorchard rest on his spine. But before the final blow would rip him apart, he grabbed the Anathame blade and tore himself into the warp, running away to safety. Erebus sat in his chamber, wounded. He had never felt so close to death. Never had he been on such a deviation from the gods' visions. He didn't care if it was seen as cowardice. He would always live, no matter what. The first chaplain reattached the hand on his mauled forearm. If his power and position at Lorgar's side was reduced, he would focus on the one that still held his counsel in regard.
Horus Lupercal.
Erebus left to join the court of the War Master, eager to also prove to Lorgar he was wrong, as he waited the results of Cygnus Prime. War Master Horus looked up from his throne at his assembled court as Erebus entered the chamber. The Dark Apostle broke protocol and strode forward without waiting for acknowledgement, barely even offering a dip of his head as some kind of salute. Annoyance danced in his eyes, uncharacteristically clear for once.
War Master,
He said with a sneer buried in the words.
I bring you a gift from Cygnus Prime.
A cluster of word-bearers followed the chaplain into the hall, each of them holding onto a chain that extended away to a figure floating off the deck. The figure was a warrior in broken crimson armor, wreathed in a fiery red-orange glow that reeked of anger. Horus's Mournival were already stepping forward, his trusted lieutenants with their hands on bolters and blades. The issue taken with Erebus' disrespect opened for their punishment. The War Master gestured with a talon of the huge power claw in his right hand, stopping them before they could act. Instead, he rose and stepped down from the dais, ignoring Erebus. He crossed to the tormented warrior. Horus brushed aside the word-bearers holding the chains, and they gingerly stepped back, releasing their charge. The demon-touched legionary did not react, his inner glow seething. The War Master felt hatred radiating from the possessed body, and he turned his face to it, basking in the burn. Horus knew rage well, and he saw it contained here. The tortured, cracked armor of the warrior that had once been the son of Sanguinius wavered like a mirage. He studied the figure for anything that showed name or rank, but found only the remains of company and squad markings, and the molten ruin of an apothecary's prime helix badge.
Who are you?
He asked, infernal eyes regarding him.
Who I was no longer matters, War Master. I am a weapon at your command.
Horus smiled coldly.
I approve of that.
The hate of 100,000 souls fills me. I burn eternally with it. I am bound to ruin all things. I am the fallen son of Baal, the cruel Angelus, the willing slave. I am the Red Angel.
It takes Angron's title in vain.
Malagurst, the War Master's equerry, dared to offer an opinion.
The gladiator will see grave offense in that.
The demon bound did not look away from Horus.
If the Primarch Angron wishes that name, then he may challenge me for it. I deserve it more than he ever will.
He'll squash you like a bug. He'll squash you like a bug. Don't forget, demon, you are in a Astartes body. He'll squash you like a bug.
A mixture of gruff amusement and irritation at his presumption moved through the assemblage of the court, and Horus let it die away, circling the possessed figure. Finally, he nodded to himself.
You will be of use.
He turns to walk back to his throne.
Of use?
Erebus repeated.
Hey, Erebus, keep to your mask. Don't let that mask fall off. I know you're still hurt with what happened with Logar, but, remember, keep your composure. This is the War Master now.
And his tone halted the War Master in mid-step.
This freak collision of effect is plucked from the rubble of a failed endeavor, and that is all you have to say on the matter.
You take issue with this.
Horus's voice was deceptively calm. It was the manner of Erebus to be meted and calculating in all things. Or at least, it had been at the beginning.
Exactly. Now he's just ruining everything for himself. Oh well.
But recently, the routine that shadowed his easy cunning had waned, and there was a growth of arrogance that was becoming clear.
The trap at Cygnus has failed. The Blood Angels should be at our banner.
The Dark Apostle bit out the words. He jabbed a finger at the floor.
Sanguinius should be kneeling before you, bathed in blood and broken. Instead, this remnant is all we have to show for our effort. So much had been put into the construction of the cults and the Bloodfanes. We needed that legion. We would have that legion if you had not intervened.
Horus showed no sign of irritation at the veiled accusation.
But Erebus, you must also realize that Horus Rupercaud wants no competition in terms of, having the favor of the Chaos Gods. If Sanguinius was the one, who had this demon inside him, the Chaos Gods might probably shift their attention from Horus Rupercaud and give it to Sanguinius, because he's also a very promising son of the Emperor. So Horus cannot afford that sort of competition for the favor of the Chaos Gods. And maybe also because he still loves his brother. And maybe that's why he also disrupted that plan. Maybe.
You think I was wrong? Please, speak plainly, Erebus. I would have it no other way.
That Erebus took the next step was a clear indication of how much he had changed since Davin.
You broke the pattern. You disrupted the flow by offering skulls to the bloodthirster, all because you did not wish the angel to stand among us. You did not want a rival in our ranks. The Blood Angels walk the Scarlet Path, but now they will never be ours. The ruinous powers will not be pleased.
The Apostle's brief tirade died away into silence.
Erebus, you don't have the authority to talk upon their behalf. They're not talking to you anymore. So for you to assume that they will not be pleased is very arrogant of you.
And no other sound rose beyond it. There came a flash of shock, quickly smothered, as too late Erebus arrived at the understanding that he had overstepped the mark. Horus studied him, examining the dense lines of text tattooed across the word-bearer's face and neck.
I admit, I am displeased at this turn of events. Sanguinius's death would have served many purposes, even if my vanity was one of them.
He grinned, at once malicious and self-deprecating. Then his manner turned cold.
But so be it. The angel will face me in battle before our campaign ends. Only one of us will survive.
That could have been avoided.
Erebus offered, attempting to make back the ground he had given up.
Do you think I am a puppet?
said Horus. He nodded at the Red Angel.
A weapon to be commanded? I think you may. I think you must be reminded of your place in the scheme of things.
The War Master's hand shot out and snatched at the hilt of a dagger sheathed at the Dark Apostle's belt. Erebus gave a gasp as Horus took his anatheme and turned it in his grip, letting the warp-touch blade catch the chamber's ill light.
You let the mask slip, Erebus. You showed yourself to me. I saw what you show them.
Horus touched the tip of the dagger on the Apostle's cheek, and he flinched away as it burned him. The sons of Horus were suddenly there at his back, blocking his retreat.
Teleport. Oh yeah, he has your blade. Oh no. Oh gosh. Is they... Alright.
For a moment, the word-bearer legionaries in the chamber hesitated, hands falling to their weapons, ready to defend their master. But Erebus slowly shook his head, warning them off. He had to realize what was to come, and that he had no choice but to accept it.
Let me see that face again,
said Horus, cutting a bloodied line across Erebus's forehead, as his warriors took the Apostle's arms and held him rigid.
Your true face.
With an artist's care, the War Master sliced with the flesh and into the meat. Though he gasped and trembled, Erebus did not cry out. Horus took the severed edge between his fingers, and like the turning of a page, he skinned Erebus's face from his bloody, smothered head. The word-bearer staggered back, his features a ruin of crimson, stark white eyes glaring out and unable to blink.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. No, so then how do you water your eyeballs? Because you need to do that. You know? If there is no skin here anymore, then... Oh gosh. Oh, this is disturbing.
Things that whisper in your ear, that you hold in concord with your pacts and your inscriptions. Remind them that they are not the architects of this war.
Horus paused.
Really? Really now, Horus? Are you sure?
As he considered the bloody rag that was his new trophy.
I am.
Yeah, deluded to the end, eh? Horus, thinking that you are in control. You are a deluded tool. Definitely. But it's okay. I think the Chaos Gods have already calculated that situation when it comes to your attitude.
Cygnus Prime, the carefully laid out trap by Erebus, had been foiled by the machinations of Horus. Erebus, after centuries of playing his role and manipulating even the Primarchs, finally slips up. With Lorgar, his nature was revealed over time, but with Horus he has had an outburst that validated the suspicions of the War Master. Erebus relates to the Emperor in a way he would have never suspected. The Primarchs, the demigod-like beings given so much power and influence, really are like children. Lorgar, Horus, all of them seem to follow their own whims. Erebus has to work around their precious egos, and even throughout the heresy, Erebus has foiled many assassination attempts upon Horus. And this is how he repays him. Though in part Erebus serves the gods, because they are gods, and their wills and desires are superior to his. He has his own vanity and desire for power met in their service. But where he deviates from the Primarchs is he wouldn't have the audacity to override his desires and games over that of the gods. Horus punishes Erebus for his outburst. Similar to Lorgar, he is sick of the machinations of Erebus, He flays the first chaplain's face, revealing the muscled flesh beneath, bloody, haunting, and ugly, the true face of Erebus. Erebus is dismissed from the War Master's side, reattaching the now distorted face that has lied to so many. It unnerves Erebus that things are happening which he has not foreseen, making him wonder if the god's favour is being put elsewhere.
Of course it is. Your time is done. It's over. You're no longer that special one in their toolbox. Yeah, you've been cast out.
Like he's being abandoned again. Though he possesses the power to heal his face, he chooses not to as a symbol of his new mindset. He doubles down and retreats into further zealotry of the dark gods. Like many who have looked into the flame, Erebus will never leave the allegorical cave. He has served as a manipulator and now sees that his role as Destiny's hand is changing. The manipulation is done. The heresy burns the galaxy, and all that is left is to clean up the loose ends. The galaxy burns as the Horus Heresy is washed over the Imperium for nearly a decade. Battle, blood, and apocalypse reigned over thousands of worlds, as the forces of the traitors slowly made their way towards the throne world of terror. Erebus and the Word-Bearer's Legion had already begun to show fractures, long before. But now it became clearer as the siege of terror loomed. With the worship of the gods came the exaltation of their tenets, corruption and life, obsession and perfection, deceit and change, rage and honor. Each bearer of the word had begun to seek his own goal, his own path to the gods and the boons they offered. Even Erebus's own pupils had sought to betray him by stealing the Fulgurite, the crystalline spear used to kill Vulcan on Macragge, a mess Erebus dealt with personally, as he allowed the perpetual John Grammaticus to leave with the weapon, knowing his fate was in the will of the gods. Finally, Erebus would see the fruit of his long labour manifest, as the forces under War Master Horus breached into the solar system. The final stages of the war had begun. Only a portion of the 17th Legion forces were bound to the arch-traitor's armada. Lorgar's recent failed assassination attempt upon Horus, leaving the Horizon a broken and wounded mess at Horus's feet. Something Erebus enjoyed greatly. A reckoning for the one who had thought himself in the favour of the gods above him. Erebus knew that his name and face were no longer ones held in high regard. He took to disguising himself as the Apostle of the Unspeaking. Erebus aided the fleets of the traitors in a dark ritual, cutting a swath through the loyalist defences and allowing the embarkation of the ground assault to begin. Terror was under siege. The throne world burned. The atmosphere became clogged with smoke and ash, as for weeks the constant bombardment and furious battles scarred the birthplace of humanity. From the shadows, Erebus plucked away at the strings, waiting for the opportunity to complete the last task of the gods. In the desert lands of Mauritania, Erebus walked through the sands. By the gods, he hated the sand. He hated the sand on Colchis, and he despised it here, a reminder of monotonous days. Erebus wasn't sure what he would feel when he looked upon her, a figure only he had been privy to in the earliest days.
Her?
Perpetual. Erda. Would he be intimidated?
The Primarch of the... not the Primarch, but the mother of the Primarchs, Erda. Oh, wow. Okay. Wait, what's the name of the desert planet? Wait, let's go back. Sorry, guys. Sorry about this.
Ash. As for weeks, the constant bombardment and furious battles scarred the birthplace of humanity. From the shadows, Erebus plucked away at the strings, waiting for the opportunity to complete the last task of the gods. In the desert lands of Mauritania, Erebus walked through the sands.
Mauritania. Okay.
By the gods, he hated the sand. He hated the sand on Colchis, and he despised it here, a reminder of monotonous days. Erebus wasn't sure what he would feel when he looked upon her, a figure only he had been privy to in the earliest days, the perpetual Erda. Would he be intimidated, nervous, excited? Was he capable of any of those emotions after all he had seen and done? "Who are you?" a voice called to him. With all sincerity, he had always desired to be put behind this answer. He spoke his truth out loud. "I am the Hand of Destiny." It was a name mocked and sneered at by his fellows, but Erebus didn't care. Only he could understand the magnanimity of its truth.
Yeah, okay, Erebus.
The anathema's empire burned because of him. The business rose up as he remembered how all those he had elevated had discarded him. The woman said his title with undisguised sarcasm. Erebus smiled. He was going to enjoy this. He looked around this simple chamber the woman kneeled in. There were basic trinkets that were old, crafted in ages long forgotten, made by simple human hands. Erebus felt the power of human souls within this chamber. It was old, something powerful and unlike anything he had felt before. No wonder it had taken him months to be able to even get close. Erda sternly asked Erebus to leave. But how could Erebus? He was here to pay his respects. He knew who she was. Erda, mother of the Primarchs, the other genetic half of the Emperor's creations, the very choirs of the Pantheon name, and he felt blessed to meet with the one who had started this all. When she scattered.
You know, it's unfortunate that the Primarchs will never meet their mother, Erda. They'll never meet her. Yet, Erebus, of all people, you know, it couldn't even be at least one loyalist Astartes. At least one, just to visit the mother of their Primarch. No, it had to be Erebus. Oh my gosh.
The Primarchs from Terra. He was glad to meet a fellow instrument of the gods. Gods, Erda spat. This again. What could you possibly know of gods?
And she is not an instrument of the Chaos Gods. Well, at least I don't think she... I don't think she is one. Yeah.
Look at you. You dress like some mind-touched devil boy kicked out of the village for poisoning the well. Something has misled you, and I do not care what that is. I only care that you leave. Erebus really was enjoying this. He felt the power from her bubbling up. He saw her fill with hate and anger. It does not matter if she was willing or not. She had wounded the anathema as much as he had.
As much as you have? Okay. Yeah, well... The Emperor doesn't even know who you are. I think the person who's really hurt him is Erda, yes, and also his son, Horus Heresy, and all the other Primarchs. But you, I know you're the chief architect that has orchestrated all of this, but I think you're putting too much importance in yourself in this matter, Erebus, you know. Because now you're involving yourself in a family matter. You are not part of this family. You know, you're an interloper of some sort that has just lodged themselves into the fight between the father, the sons, and now also the mother. But anyways.
Erda rose to meet Erebus's goads. She stood almost as tall as him in Astartes' plate. She paced towards him as Erebus brought the gods' offer. Elevation, a reward with the embrace of chaos for all she had achieved.
Wow, Erda is as tall as an Astartes? In armor? Really? Wow. Okay. She's definitely a different type of perpetual, I think.
You have ambition but little else, Erda responded. I had my disagreements with him, but I always knew he worked for the betterment of the species. Your masters, however, or what you take to be your masters, they are the end. Erebus countered that she had already served the Pantheon. Choices. Erebus countered that she was already serving the Pantheon. Choices. A choice is always given. He was offering one to her now, just as how he had grasped his on Colchis. Erda wouldn't stop. She tore into Erebus. You have no masters, just distorted reflections of your own dreams. You prostrate yourself before annihilation. No, the gods are real. He had seen it with his own eyes. How could one deny the evidence of their blessings? At the power he wielded, Erda responded, because all you are doing is consuming your own. A demon is nothing but a human thought, a moment of human weakness. You can dignify them with names, but all they are is corpse gas. No, Erebus thought. He knew the truth.
No, she is telling you the truth, Erebus.
Was his truth. His knowledge and power was validation itself. Of all Erda's ideals, what could stand up to the undeniability of what he knew? Humanity must have faith. Nothing unites mankind the way religion inspires unity. No conflict rages as fiercely as a holy war. No warrior kills with the conviction of a crusader. Nothing in life breeds bonds and ambition greater than the ties and dreams forged by faith. Religion brings hope, unification, law and purpose, the foundations of civilization itself. Faith is nothing less than the pillar of a sentient species, raising it above the beast, the automaton and the alien. Erda turned away. She had known people of peace, humility and love, people who had lived lives better than the ones with no ambition in their heart. If there was anything worthy of worship, it was the deeds, those exhausted, callous hands that lifted others up.
The flesh is weak, but deeds endure.
Not names and myth. Those who demand veneration are never really worth it. Erda stared back into Erebus's eyes. The two mirrored each other, one dressed in simple cloth, humble, the other in spikes and gruesome armor, a tantamount to his ambition and cruelty. She was a fool, Erebus thought, to live one's life by their own convictions. How could one who followed a path set for him even fathom choice like that? It was abhorrent. The will of the gods was the only path. All others were heresy. All other words she had, all her ideas, her insult and cutting barbs met the wall inside Erebus's soul. The gods were absolute. All challenges to that he could not even hear.
I hear boss music. I hear Vanguard. I hear Vanguard from Scott Buckley. Okay, let's go. I think there's going to be a fight right now. Erda can fight? Okay, let's see.
It made him angry to hear the contrary. If you persist in ignorance, then I shall remove you from the game. The posture in both of them changed, as they knew what was coming next. Erda placed her hands together. As the room began to glow golden light, she told him he should not have come here alone. Erebus smiled. He didn't. 4 great shapes began to curl around his being, a bestial cloud of fang and spines. 4 greater demons lashed out at Erda, the earth-shattering blows splitting the room and showering rubble around them. But still Erda began to glow. Her form began to enlarge to challenge the demons. Erda raised her hands. As the sky crackled with thunder, she struck back with power that Erebus did not understand. Erebus
Cool.
was reduced to an observer. He stared at the contest with rapturous delight. Oh, how it was a blessing to witness power and the strength of the gods.
Man, she must be an extremely powerful psyker. Maybe to the level of what's his name again? The right hand man of the Emperor. I forgot his name. Oh no. I forgot his name. Guys, help me. I forgot his name. I'll remember him, but yeah. He must be as powerful as the right-hand man of the Emperor. Oh, wow.
He struggled to look at Erda. The power he sensed from her was primordial, but different from the immaterium. It was like it was the power of life itself. He didn't want to dwell on it. He didn't want to give that thought oxygen, because the very idea of something not leading back to the gods was unthinkable. The howling winds and energy made it difficult to look, but Erebus saw. Erda split into various forms of her soul within. The various lives the Perpetual had lived over millennia cast into brilliant and terrifying power.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Wow. Why didn't you come back, Erda? Why didn't you come back and try to help your sons? You needed to be there.
Erda exploded her power in a wave that eviscerated the 4 demons, wounding her in the process. Erebus stared on in awe, imagining what she could have been if she had served the gods. He realized she did indeed scatter the Primarchs alone, and in her foolishness, she believed she had wounded both the Emperor and the gods. She couldn't have it both ways. Erda's body was a mess of wounds and blood.
No. Erda, teleport away if you can. I don't know if she has that ability. Oh no.
She was barely able to keep herself breathing. Erebus approached. He knelt down beside her, victorious. Despite all she had, she was nothing in the face of the gods.
Don't kill her, you bastard.
She had challenged him and the powers he wielded, and had been found wanting. Worship me, he said. Even now, I offer you one last chance. The fire in her eyes died, and her limbs went slack. He always loved this moment, the moment where total defeat swallowed his victim up. But a smile crept over Erda, as with her last words she rejected him.
Why isn't the Emperor coming in to save the mother of his children? Why isn't he coming here to save her? Emperor, where are you? He must be on the Golden Throne right now. Since the Civil War is over, he's on the Golden Throne, almost half dead. But I'm sure he has power. He can help her somehow, right?
Erebus drew the knife and ended her millennia-long existence. With the last task set by the gods, Erebus returned to the shadows as the siege of Terra continued, conscious.
Oh, okay, the siege is still continuing. Yes, then the Emperor is still, he's still on the throne right now, trying to hold back the demons in the webway, right? I'm sure he was able to sense Erda fighting. Why didn't he help her? Damn.
Of the other Perpetuals, and making plans to deal with this threat. Terror burned, leading to the final battle aboard the Vengeful Spirit, a titanic conflict that led to the death of the War Master Horus. But in turn the anathema was crippled, interred upon the Golden Throne as a carrion lord. As the weak ties that bound the traitorous forces together broke, Erebus followed his legion into the Eye of Terror. Upon the demon world of Sicarius, a shadow war has been brewing for millennia, one between Erebus and Corpheron, for influence over the Legion. With the wound sustained...
What Legion? What Legion, guys? Corpheron, Erebus, what are you fighting over? There is no Legion anymore. Those Astartes were just scattered to the winds as they follow their own paths in venerating the Chaos Gods. There is no Legion anymore. They won't even obey you guys. But anyways.
From Corvus Corax, the ascended demon Primarch Lorgar has been absent. The power vacuum conveniently filled by Erebus. The fate the gods had intended, a grim dark future of only war. The grand offering born of Erebus's fruit, empowers the gods as humanity exalts the very attributes of worship. A future of rage, corruption, manipulation, and excess. Destiny's hand has guided humanity to the right path, but Erebus is not done. Most people do what they do, not because of evil, but because of innocence. The desire to be protected, to be recognized in some way, to believe their truth is truth. But some simply do it for power, to fill the void of weakness within. Was it ever about truth, or was it because the gods offered the unimportant boy from Colchis power?
It's the second one. The Chaos Gods were offering him power.
They hate me. Not because of what I am, but because of what they were. They hate me because they turned, and I did not. The records of our enemies call us all turncoats, but I changed no allegiance.
True.
I was always here, just as I am now, aware of myself and the universe that made me. I lied with every breath I ever took, except to myself. That is purity of a kind, and something that no other soul in this grand armada of renegades can boast. I look upon terror now from my void, cold vantage, and see its huddled lights glimmer in the fragile dark. Soon, the order to attack will come, and the final act will be entered. The monsters I created will burst from their fetters, giving no thought to what long labors brought them here. Horus mutilated me. My own Primarch discarded me. That could be a cause for self-doubt, here on the edge of terror's fall.
But you don't really care about these people. They are tools in your eyes as well, because you believed that the Chaos Gods are the only people you should worry about, and everything is in the service of them.
That could make a lesser soul slink away, gnawing on his failure, even as humanity's bastion collapses at last. But that's never been my way. I've been stung before, and I always come back for more poison. I'm still the boy in the shadows of Colchis, pulling on the garrote string and feeling my blood pump. The old games never really ceased, in truth. Only the players changed. Nothing remains to be explained. I can whisper these truths to my own screed-inscribed face if I wish, that I can now hold up in front of my own eyes as my only audience. The ragged flesh is dry and cracking now, and will fall apart soon, but I keep it, just as I used to keep my mirrors for the same purpose. I took this face from another man once, to become what I wanted to be. Now it is my reminder that all despots are fragile, and that the hand of destiny will always be despised. Such is my power now. I could fashion a new skin in moments. I choose not to. My face still weeps blood under my helm, glistening on flayed muscles. It hurts, and that, too, is a reminder. I was there at the start. I was there before we even had names for all the things we're doing now. I have no congregation anymore, but I will again. The faithful will come back, thirsty for accounts of how this feat was achieved, and I will have stories waiting for them. Such stories. Stories that will make their ears bleed and their hearts burst. So it's not done yet, Erebus. Not yet. Just watch. Just watch.
Just watch. Just watch. Yes, guys, that is it. That is it with Erebus, the architect of the Horus Heresy, voice acted 40k lore, entire character history made on the Amber King YouTube channel and voice acted by Liam Taylor. And yeah, wow, the hand of destiny, the hand of chaos, destiny. If I can say it like that, I don't know. But yeah, Erebus. The way he talked about his home world, the way he talked about his life, and how boring it was, and how he didn't really have it in himself to do something with his life. He just wanted to play with the scorpions. He just wanted to rest and have everything he could ever want just fall in his lap. And he didn't know how he was going to get that type of lifestyle, but he was going to get it somehow. And I guess he did when he killed Erebus, the real Erebus, and that's when his journey truly started. I don't know when exactly did the Chaos Gods begin to, give him premonitions of the future and, give him a sense of certainty on the current events or the events that are going to be happening into the future and what he should be doing in order to serve the Chaos Gods better. But it did happen on Colchis. It did happen, during the time when Logar was sweeping across the entire planet with his religion of praying to the Emperor of Mankind. So it did happen around that time, and yeah, Erebus has just been extremely loyal to the Chaos Gods from day one. He never faltered, even when the Chaos Gods finally let him go. They didn't give him the premonitions anymore. They didn't give him the ability of foresight, and they abandoned him effectively. But he was still loyal to them. Even now, he is still loyal to them. And the fact that he has worked so hard, someone who's lazy like him, someone who comes from cultures who's lazy, who didn't want to work for his success. He didn't want to work for having the life that he's always wanted. He worked extremely hard during the crusade and during the Horus Heresy. He has worked his back off for the Chaos Gods and for his own vanity included. But really, I think if Erebus could see himself in the future, his past self, seeing himself in the future, he would be shocked. He would be surprised to see that, I'm really working here. I'm really getting my hands dirty. I'm thinking of ways and plans of convincing these very powerful demigods to side with the Chaos Gods. I think he'd be really surprised to see his future self and how he's always involved in trying to mold this dark period of the Imperium of Man into fruition. Seriously. So yeah, Erebus, he didn't really have friends per se. They were just tools to be used and then thrown out when the time was right. But I think he really did care for Argyltal like a son. I think he did, just a bit. But when he realized that Argyltal was compromised and he was going to compromise his future plans, he had to go. And I don't know if he actually felt a bit hurt about that, but maybe like when he killed Erebus, he felt that excitement. He was ecstatic that he finally got to stab another person in the back, and it gave him that that little zeal and excitement that he was able to do that. But I think he did think of him as a son, just a bit. I think that was the person who was the closest to his heart, and that was Argyltal. I don't think anyone else was as close to him in his time as a Astartes and becoming into a traitor Astartes. I don't think there was anyone who was close to him like Argotol. And the fact that he has so many abilities, so many powerful abilities. He can resurrect the dead. He can teleport through the warp. Like, the things that he can do. Oh yeah, and he can summon demons to defend him. Greater demons. Not just any regular demon. No, greater demons to defend him. It's amazing, really. It's also unfortunate what happened to Urda, the mother of the Primarchs. Really. I'm really just disappointed and a bit sad to hear that she's gone and she's never gonna come back ever again. And I think this is another reason why I will hate Erebus. He killed the mother of the Primarchs, you know. It's fine if you succeeded in killing the Emperor. I don't really like the Emperor, so yeah, you know, he can go. But Urda, really, why her? Why did the Chaos Gods want her to die? I don't understand. But maybe because, you know, she would be a threat to their future plans when it came to the Primarchs. Maybe she would be the one who would be able to turn the Primarchs back into good, you know? Because it seems to me that the Emperor can't succeed in convincing his sons to let go of the Chaos Gods and come back to protecting and serving humanity. I think the only person who they would listen to is their mother, Urda. So maybe that's why the Chaos Gods, you know, wanted a hit on her so that she doesn't become a threat to them later on in the future. But yeah, you know, Erebus, he really worked his socks off to make sure that this grand plan of the Chaos Gods came into fruition without any problem. And he succeeded. He succeeded in making sure that his Primarch Logar Alarion would convert. He succeeded in making sure that the Legion, the 17th Legion, the Word Bearers, would also convert, and that they would have their warrior lodges, and it would also spread to other legions. He succeeded in making sure that Horus Supercal would also turn to chaos, and you know, the Legion would also follow suit with their Primarch. He made sure that all of these plans would come into fruition, and at least he can be proud of that. That yes, he was there at the very beginning. He was there, he did it diligently, and with loyalty in his heart for the Chaos Gods, and he succeeded. I think he is even more successful in achieving his goals more than the Emperor. More than the Emperor, because the Emperor fell short. He did not truly understand his sons, and he did not respect his sons, and he also didn't truly, you know, understand the type of people his sons were, especially when it came to Magnus the Red. You know, because that's when the ultimate failure and the last nail on the coffin happened, when Magnus the Red went into the webway, destroyed it, allowing the demons to come through, and, you know, ending the Emperor's great plan or great scheme for humanity. You know, that ended his plans. But Erebus's plans still went through. They succeeded. He was successful. So truly, his plans and his desires were far more efficient and executed in detail compared to the Emperor. Truly. But yeah, I still don't like this guy. I still don't like this guy, but the way the Amber King and Liam Taylor, you know, contributed in giving us a story around Erebus, it was funny sometimes. I have to admit, I was really enjoying this character. You know, the way he complains about his homeworld, the way he complains about, you know, being living, or should I say living on this planet, the way he complains about the Primarchs and you know, the sort of work he has to be doing to make sure that everything goes according to plan. You know, really, it was fun. It was really fun to hear how Erebus thinks and how he acts, especially around his other Astartes brothers or around the Primarchs as well. So yeah, really, I enjoyed this. I really did enjoy this video, you know, centered around Erebus. And yeah, thank you again to the Amber King for creating such entertaining and informative content centered around Warhammer 40k. Thank you again also to all the voice actors that contributed, especially Liam Taylor. Really, I think this is the work I like from you the most. Yeah, with Roberto Gilliman it was also nice, but with Erebus, oh man, this was really enjoyable. I really did like it. I really did enjoy this one. And yeah, guys, that's it. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as the Amber King's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be updated from my latest videos. And I'm going to be continuing with my Warhammer 40k reaction content. I think, yeah, Star Wars versus Warhammer. What else? There's a Tyranid video from the Templin Institute that I still have to react to, and then three other videos I'm still going to be reacting to, you know, centered around Warhammer 40k. So yeah, stay tuned for those ones that are coming up. And thank you again, guys, for staying and watching my reaction to Erebus, the Hand of Destiny. Yeah, it's been fun. Okay, bye-bye.